All right, we're back, I think. Hopefully. Yeah. I'm sorry about this, guys. I don't know what the hell's going on. Well, I do know what's going on. It's my fucking life. Oh my god, dude. This is annoying as shit. But, you know, is what it is. Not much we can do about it now. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Yeah. You guys just have to understand, for those of you that's new here, please understand the internet is incredibly iffy here. So it goes down just for fucking funsies. And then, yeah, I sometimes can't get back. Sometimes I can't get back. It really depends. Disruptor, you motherfucker. 10 months, part of the DJ Nation. Appreciate you, fam. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're far too kind, sir. Let's see if Morny is up and Adam. I know Morny's in chat. Okay, Morny is up. Here we go. Morny, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, not bad, not bad. Are we doing a bit of Q&A?
That'd be great with me.
All right. Are you guys in chat ready for some Q&A? Let's see if we can do it before the internet fucks out. Probably a good idea. Now, remember, guys, if you want to ask us some... Oh, I should probably change the stream profile here. Hold up. Dude, I fucking suck at playing video games. I always want to play video games, and I never actually play video games. Like, what the actual fuck? Let me just quickly... No, that's not right. All right. I'm ready. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the way this works, for all of you that is interested, the way this works, you jump into Discord, you ask your question in the Q&A section on Discord. Once you've asked your question, you tell the mods that you want to join the voice channel or that you don't want to join the voice channel. It really is up to you. If you join the voice channel, you get to discuss it with me. You get to ask your question as well as discuss my answer. If you disagree, I welcome that. I really want to hear your opinions on things. Yeah, and we just have fun for the next 2 hours or so. You guys fine with that? Hopefully. Wait, is the stream down again? It can't be fucking down again.
No, it's fine on my end.
All right. Caleb, what the fuck, bro? Hold the line is just for when my internet breaks, bro.
Yeah, you're gonna give us a heart attack, bud.
Yeah, fucking hell. That really did scare me a little. I was like, no! Let me just do this. Fuck. Don't be like this. All right, fam. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes just to filter in, get ready, and do some things. Jurgen, how you doing, brother? Thanks for the first time chat. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel, bro. Filter in, jump into Discord if you haven't already. Yeah, come ask some fucking questions. Maybe we should just post this as well. Yeah, fuck it. We'll just post this.
I am excited to say that we've got a lot of good questions to go through.
Easy. I like when we've got a lot of questions. That makes me happy. Mods, if we can join voice chat. Okay, so if you want to join the voice chat, it is simple. You literally jump into the Q&A lobby. You don't have to ask anyone. Morny is going to pull people in order of them asking their questions. So you just jump into the Q&A lobby, hang out there with someone else, and Morny will pull you in as soon as it's your turn to ask the question. And with that said, Moni, I think we're ready. I think.
All right.
What's the first question, or who is the first questionnaire?
The first question comes from Ace Shamagi. I
Just
always
Ace.
butcher the
Ace
name.
is
I'm
fine.
sorry,
Ace the
Ace.
base, I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they had an interesting. So they got a little confused on what Vol'jin is becoming now. So I'll read his question as it is,
Okay.
and then clarify for it
Okay.
because I still think it's a good question.
Yeah. All right.
With Vol'jin now becoming the king of the Loa, can he impact the story significantly for the mortal races and to uncover more hidden secrets that maybe the Loa have known but never were able to tell us until now?
Yeah.
With all of these leaks from the Titan constructs.
Mhm.
Now, the caveat is the correction here is Vol'jin is becoming the Loa of kings, not the king of all Loa. So
Yeah.
he's specifically, the Loa that represents royalty.
Yeah.
But I still think with Vol'jin, a mortal spirit, that's the first time we have seen somebody turn into a Loa, besides what we heard of Wansamdi, I still wanted to ask their question.
All right, so yeah, first things first, obviously, I'm not even sure if him becoming the Loa of Kings is canon. Is that canonical, or was that speculation on our part? Because we know that the original Loa of Kings died. That's been well established. I'm not sure if it was established. We know he's becoming a Loa, but I'm not sure if it's actually canonical. But it doesn't really matter either way, right? The thing is, so Vol'jin's death supplied us with a number of interesting, I guess, tidbits in terms of lore. First and foremost, it canonized the process by which Loa are created. This suggests that every single Loa at some point went through this. Now, in a perfect world, we would find out about all of these Loa that had once been created, like Hakar, for example. What kind of living being turns into Hakar? It has to be someone that's got, someone that's not quite right. Turns into a being like Hakar. But okay, so that canonized the whole process, and it's really cool to see. It also throws a lot of things out of whack, because we know that they have a place called the Other Side, which is their version of hell or heaven, depending on, I guess, how you want to view it, but it's their version of the afterlife. The issue, though, is that the creation of Loa takes place within Ardenweald and not within the Other Side, which is very curious. Because why? Is this a function that used to belong to the Other Side that was taken over by Ardenweald? Or is the Other Side and Ardenweald, has it always been one thing? Or is there an even bigger story around this? As for the mortal interference here, I'm almost hoping that Vol'jin eventually becomes the Loa of the Horde. So not the Loa of Kings, the Loa of the Horde. Because you bet your ass there's going to be information that Vol'jin now has access to that we have never known about, and that we would have no way of knowing about unless, of course, we spoke to an actual Loa that was willing to tell us the truth. There's another thing that bothers me a little, that I'm not entirely sure what to do with. Moni, perhaps you have an answer to this, but what? Vol'jin was the servant of Wansamdi. Wansamdi was the servant of Muazala. He claims to have been a priest. At least that's his lore as it stands now. He was a priest of Muazala, and then he died and he was turned into a Loa. He served Muazala for a really long time. But Wansamdi, since taking over from Muazala, Wansamdi is now the king of Loas. So, how does that work?
So, what happened? You're absolutely right. When Rizan was killed,
Mhm.
and I believe Zul's betrayal was made
Yeah.
apparent.
Yeah.
Rastakhan made a deal with
One somebody.
Wansamdi. He
Yes.
elevated him to the king of Loa and bound his bloodline with his daughter
Yeah.
Talanji, sorry, to that. So
Talanji
yes,
broke
right
free of that,
now,
didn't she?
I believe so, but
Yeah, I
I'm
think she
not
freed herself of it.
100%. Because Wansamdi asked something of her that she could not do, which was
Yeah.
basically bring him Sylvanas' head.
Yeah.
And at this point, she's still. At that point in time, it was still up in the air as to whether Talanji was aware of what Sylvanas was doing, and
Yeah.
if she was even, you know, still part of the Horde or siding with the Horde.
See, but that was
But
also, I
yeah,
just want to say, that's another thing that they should have had in the game. Because people who didn't read Before the Storm wouldn't understand that when somebody knew what Sylvanas was up to long before anyone else did. Because he kept the souls of all of the Zandalari for himself because he knew that all souls of the Zandalari was flowing into the Maw. That was another, just to quickly throw that in there. They
yeah,
should have had that.
it's another connection to him, being
Yeah.
Muazala's basically second in command. He
Yeah.
was given dominion over the souls of, well, the Zandalari trolls and any other trolls like the Darkspear tribe
Yeah.
that worshipped him.
Yes.
So I think it is speculation on our part that Vol'jin is being set up to basically replace Razan. And the only reason that question is coming up is because it just seems thematic and appropriate and something that Blizzard would set up. Basically, Razan died, Vol'jin died in a very lackluster fashion. I mean, I don't care what you say. It was a letdown, even if it was in a cinematic battle on the Broken Isles. He was war chief for barely a week, more or less.
True. I mean,
so
it sort of solidified the musical chairs being, the main sort of tool that the Horde uses for their war chiefs.
Yeah.
It's just musical chairs. Everyone dies.
So yeah, I would say right now, if Talanji did break free of Wansamdi, that currently there is no Loa of Kings, and that Vol'jin may come back as a prime example, or a great contender for that slot, because he will likely manifest to Talanji and other Zandalari trolls and Darkspear trolls and offer his wisdom that he knows, combined with the new insight he gets as a Loa.
We could even see some interaction between him and Sylvanas. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
he is a
for
Loa.
That matter.
She is in the Maw. He could go to her. We could see a cinematic at some point where Vol'jin and Sylvanas speaks, and he's like, "What the fuck had you done?" So there is a lot there. But I would say for now, I don't think we're gonna see Vol'jin anytime soon. I think he's been sort of put on the back burner for a while Blizzard sorts out the sort of Dragonflight era of things. In saying that, there is a world in which Vol'jin can become useful literally towards the end of this expansion. Because him being a Loa would certainly be helpful in the fight against Galakrond. Because Galakrond, we already know, was influenced by Oxyron, and there's almost definitely some kind of connection to the Shadowlands. So there is a chance that we could see Vol'jin a lot sooner, I guess.
Not just Vol'jin, but Wansamdi, who's now taken up the complete portfolio of Loa of the Dead from Muazala. Even though
absolutely.
we defeated Muazala, we didn't destroy him. We helped Wansamdi chain him up in the other side.
Yeah, he's basically a prisoner right now. Probably serving as some kind of But this is where things are going to backfire again. Guys, there's so much story coming here. Because from the stories of Shadowlands, we have two major storylines that has not been finished yet. We have the Drost, that still is a story in and of itself. And then we have the story of the other side. It's a story that still hasn't been finished. Because Muazala is currently being locked up, most likely being used as some sort of battery power pack for one Sunday. But that doesn't mean that Muazala can't break free. And that's going to be... Oh, that's going to be interesting. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. There's been talk of patches that's been skipped, Giant Rat Guy. And according to some of my sources... I told you guys at the beginning of Dragonflight that that's one of the patches that's rumored to be coming. But again, I've never been able to confirm any of that. So it might be that we get it now. It might be that Blizzard's going to put it on hold for longer. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know. But anyways, thanks so much for the question. I really appreciate it. And I hope that we answered it at least to some extent. I really appreciate it. All right.
Up next is Razcuff. I'm going to be bringing him in.
All right. Cool stuff. Razcuff, how you doing, brother? He's muted.
Hello. Let me stop the stream as I hear you.
Just as a reminder for everyone that's in the stream that's waiting in the channel, this channel specifically is set to push to talk. So
Yes.
while you're waiting in the QnA lobby, make sure you set up your push to talk button.
Yeah. Razcuff, so what is your question?
Hello again. Sorry for my voice.
How you doing, brother?
Got sick today.
No, your voice is fine.
Oh, okay. So my question is about content creators this time.
Okay.
So I know that a lot of players hate to say the content creators or don't watch any content creators at all.
Yeah.
But I feel that in this current age, whenever a new game comes out, the game lives or dies based on what content creators think about the game. Yes, there might be players that will play no matter what the content creator thinks of the game, but I feel like majority of the players decide if they want to play the game or not based on the content creator's opinion.
Yeah.
And considering that there have been a lot of videos for Dragonflight and Rise of the Lich King Classic where Blizzard worked with content creators like Hurricane, Platinum, WoW, Nakura, Sidiu, Hazel, etc. And now with the three Twitch drop events that they are doing and also the Preach visit, do you think that Blizzard finally understand that they need the content creators for WoW to be good and recognized as a good game and have a good population?
Yes. I think Blizzard is doing a lot of things that seems like Blizzard have finally joined the 21st century, right? It feels like Blizzard have finally snapped that the old way of doing games is just no longer viable. Because it used to be, if you were a gaming company, you would bring out your game, you would plaster it everywhere with advertisements, and people would play it. Why? Because there were so few games to actually play. And usually, the only thing you really had to do was outbid everyone else. If you could have more adverts than anyone else, more people are going to play your game, because selections are quite, well, sparse, to put it lightly. However, we now live in a world where people are literally plastered with ads from games all the way from mobile to console to PC and everything in between. You open Steam and there's consistently ads within Steam from different games that you could play. The indie market has become a giant in the gaming sphere. While individually indie games cannot compete with AAA titles, as a collective whole, it far outstrips anything the AAA industry has on file. So what happened is, as content creation became more and more of a thing, and I think here it's important that I just deviate a little bit from content creation and explain why that became so popular, and why that's also dying at the moment, just to be clear. Content creation content creators aren't going to be the be-all and end-all of video games forever, and that's, again, due to greed, quite sadly. So it was for a while the gaming media. We would all go to magazines like NAG, or there were a couple of TV shows. South Africa didn't have any, but there were worldwide. And you would listen to them. Whenever they spoke about a video game and they told you how good the video game is, you would want to try it because they wouldn't lie to you, right? Until they finally started lying to us. It didn't take long for us to realize, wait, these guys are voting games 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, but these are shit games. They're not good games to actually play. And then we realized, oh, wait, they're all bought and paid for by the massive AAA studios. And then came the content creator. With the advent of YouTube, suddenly you had a far more personal relationship with someone than ever before. You have this guy that you trust because they play the same games as you do. And that's usually how we choose our content creators, right? No one watches a content creator that plays video games that they will never touch. What would you have in common with this person? You watch people that you like because they play the same games as you. Now, if that person tells you this game is great, you're automatically going to trust that this game is great because you know the kind of games that they've said in the past is great, and you've tried those games and you've liked it too, so you trust their opinion when it comes to these things. Those opinions and that personal relationship is everything. Now, if you're a gaming company and you want to reach the largest possible audience, advertising is no longer the way to go. Magazines is almost definitely not the way to go. So now you can go for the cheapest option, which is content creators, and it is far cheaper. If you go to a content creator, you can pay them $50K and they'll play your game on stream. That's fucking nothing in the world of advertising. If you look at normal adverts, they'll charge you 2, 3, 4 million to make an ad for TV. A content creator is going to charge you $50K, maybe $100K to play your game on stream. That's it. So it's very cheap advertising, and people trust it. Sadly, these days, more and more content creators will take sponsorships for games that they themselves will never play. And the audience have grown accustomed to this. The audience have learned. I do not trust you because I know that you will accept payment from literally anyone willing to pay. That's why you see so many people taking all of these NFT games, taking sponsorships for these NFT games. Even now, when Bitcoin and all of the crypto market is fucking crumbling, when NFTs are crumbling, these people are accepting NFT scams because it's money. And if you're going to pay me, I'm going to accept it. I still get emails daily from NFT games saying, oh my god, we have this new MMO that we want you to make a video on and tell your audience about it. And I just delete those emails because I have said long before, I will only ever take a sponsorship from anyone that I use. If I don't play it myself, I won't take the sponsorship for it. But that's just the nature of the thing, right? And since I'm one of the few people that do that, most people just learn not to trust it. In saying that, there is also a lot of value in using people that people know. So when you're watching a video from Blizzard and you see Nagura there, and you watch Nagura's videos every day, there's a much more personalized connection that takes place in that moment. You're personally more involved because you watch Nagura's videos every single day. Sidiu, you watch his videos every single day, you see him on a Blizzard video, and you feel more connected. It shows the community that Blizzard cares because Blizzard is actually reaching out to their favorite content creators, but it also gives the community a level of trust. I also think, by the way, this is not even to do with creators. This is just to do with Blizzard finally waking the fuck up. The Twitch drops thing might be the biggest thing that has ever happened in World of Warcraft's history. Why? Previously, the only people that would play World of Warcraft or watch World of Warcraft on Twitch are people who play World of Warcraft. So in terms of advertisements, not the best advertisement. Do you know how many people watch Twitch streams just for drops? Even if it's games that they know nothing about. If they see drops enabled, they watch because it might be a good game. It's going to be off the charts advertisements for this game. And again, it is technically free. You're helping the content creator out because having drops enabled means more views, but also you get to reap the rewards of more people signing up and more people going. So I'm personally very much in love with Blizzard's new approach. I think it's high time that Blizzard pay attention to their content creators. I think it's high time because right now, content creators still have a lot of power. It's not going to last forever, like I already said, because of just greed. It's not going to last forever, but for now, content creators can absolutely make or break your game. If you have 5 massive content creators raving about how good your game is, your game will sell millions of copies. That's just the nature of the thing. If you have 5 very big content creators saying your game is shit, we've seen what happens there. Final Fantasy is a very good example of this. If it wasn't for Preach, if it wasn't for Asmongold switching over to Final Fantasy would not have exploded the way that it did. It exploded because suddenly people were seeing it and people were going, whoa, this is actually not bad. Let me go try it out. So yeah, fact of the matter is content creators can absolutely make or break your game. And I think Blizzard is doing a good job.
Let's hope we see you one day also in the videos. Maybe they'll forgive you. Maybe they'll forgive you as they forgave Asmongold. So.
The difference between myself and Asmongold and Preach is I used a lot more colorful language when I described my issues with Blizzard. I don't think Asmongold or Preach ever called Ian or Steve Denuser a cunt, which obviously did not go over well. Right? I don't think they enjoyed being called cunts. I don't blame them. Like I said, I take full responsibility for it, but I'm not sorry because I meant it at the time, and it's their job to prove to me that they're not. So I don't expect myself to ever get an invite from Blizzard ever again. Also, I live in South Africa, and as far as I know, Blizzard doesn't have a South African outreach program of any kind. They don't have a department in Africa anymore. They closed that one down. So even if they wanted to, I live so far away that if they send me something from the EU, it would take up to 3-4 weeks to arrive. By that time, the promotions are probably over already. So I just think based on where I am, I wouldn't hold my breath. But hey, I wouldn't say no if Blizzard ever did want to sponsor me. Obviously, I'm not a moron. Unless the game sucks, in which case I don't want to be sponsored. So it really depends. Poison, by the way, thanks for the first time chat, dude. Really appreciate that. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Raskov.
Yes. Thank you for letting me ask, and yeah.
No, thank you very much for asking.
Can't wait to see the other questions, to listen to what other people ask.
Thank you very much, bro. I really appreciate it.
I saw a lot of story questions.
Yeah, there's like a shit ton of new questions. So I'm really looking forward to it.
See ya.
Cheers, Raskov.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Who responds to an AI? What do you mean it responds to an AI, Hopu? All right, Moni, who is next?
Up next is I See Dead People.
All right. You all right, bro?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I think he's muted. Yeah. I See Dead People, do you have your push to talk enabled? I don't know.
Well, while we're waiting.
I'm here, sorry, mate.
Oh, there we go. I See Dead People, how you doing, bro?
Apologies. Good.
All right. What's your question, bro?
Yeah, sorry about
that. I See Dead People, do you have the... Can you hear us?
Yeah, the question is, do you think the dev team has actually done enough for the larger player base?
Sorry, I See Dead People, can you just mute the stream on your end, or because I'm getting a lot of feedback from your side, so I'm finding it very difficult to hear what you ask. But yeah, ask your question again, I See Dead People. Please?
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question again, IC people.
My question was, do you think the dev team has done enough for us as the broadened player base?
See, that's okay. So it's difficult because that's going to be a very sort of that's going to be a personalized thing, right? Because everyone's going to have a different level to how they feel like Blizzard has to treat them before they think that Blizzard has done enough. So I can only really reply to it in terms of how I see things. But there's going to be people that's like, no, until until Ian drops to his knees and gives me a blowjob personally, I will never forgive them. Now, in that case, fucking good luck. It's probably it's not forthcoming, but you can hold out hope, I guess. Poison Oni, by the way, thanks for the Prime sub. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the DJ Nation. Appreciate you, fam. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, for me personally, I have never cared about, Blizzard making amends or Blizzard really apologizing for anything. The only time I have ever demanded an apology from Blizzard was after the lawsuits, which I felt they still really haven't given us, and after the content drought. So when we had that 9 months of content drought, those were the only two times I can remember in my entire time covering World of Warcraft that I demanded an apology, because I felt like that was really sneaky and just disgusting from Blizzard's side. Outside of that, all I have ever really expected from Blizzard is to make a good game. And when I look at Dragonflight, all I can do is I can compare it to what we've had, right? So I can compare it to what we've had and what I've hated, and based on what it has or what it doesn't have in common with what we've had, I can make a judgment call. Now, looking at Dragonflight, it has no borrowed power systems. It has no mandatory systems of any kind. Every single thing in the game is completely optional, and even the things that are completely optional it's completely cosmetic. So it just pushes it even further into the optional sort of track, if you will. And in my mind, that is such a huge improvement over Shadowlands and BFA, because it solves all of my problems that I had with Shadowlands and BFA. Because I'm going to be honest with you, on the face of it, if I remove the story portion of Shadowlands, I didn't mind Shadowlands. I thought the world was really beautiful. I really liked all of the zones. I'm going to be honest, I even liked them more. I didn't like the activities within them more, but as it looked, I didn't mind them more at all, like from an aesthetic standpoint. My issues with Shadowlands purely came down to the fact that I just dinged max level. Now I have to do a shit ton of dailies. I have to get all of my conduits. I have to do Torghast because I need all of the legendaries. But I also have to farm gold because these legendaries are getting stupidly expensive. Then I also have to do dungeons in order to get geared. I have to do my vault every single week. I have to raid. It's just too much. And that's just for one character. I haven't even touched any of my other characters, and I like playing other characters. So that was what put me completely off playing World of Warcraft in Shadowlands and in BFA. It's just too much shit that you're forcing me to do. Dragonflight has none of that. When I look at how Dragonflight is designed, it seems to be the kind of game that just wants me to step in and have fun. Which is when I loved WoW. Like, I loved WoW during Cataclysm and Wrath of the Lich King. Even Warlords of Draenor. I've said this before many times. I loved Warlords of Draenor because I'm a raider. So all I had to do was level a character, do a couple of dungeons, jump into raids. Easy does it, right? I was raiding on pretty much 9 or 10 characters during Warlords of Draenor just because it was so much fun. And it was so easy to get my characters ready. And I live for those things. Now, to answer your question, to specifically answer your question, has Blizzard done enough? The answer is I don't know. It's gonna boil down to execution. Because Blizzard have never had a problem starting relatively strong. With BFA, they started very strong. With Shadowlands even, they started really strong. The beginnings of Shadowlands had all the promise of a great expansion. And then it fizzles out. And then we usually have this really big dip at the middle part of the expansion. And then Blizzard finishes strong. So 9.1 was a real big letdown. And then you had more fucking content droughts. 9.15 tried to solve a lot of the problems of 9.1. But again, wasn't enough, already too late, just not good enough. 9.2 solved most of the problems that people had with Shadowlands, but at this point, most people had already given up. You go back to BFA, you have the same thing. 8.0 was a pretty decent, like, it was decent. It was a decent launch. Most people were very excited for what the future of this game could be. 8.1 comes out, terrible. 8.2 comes out, even worse. 8.3 comes out and Blizzard is finally starting to fix the things that we complain about in 8.0. So the problem for me is not the start, it's how good can Blizzard execute on the entirety of the next expansion. And of course, I'm not going to be able to answer that until we have our hands on the expansion and we can start to identify some of the shortcomings. But I think as players, we should at least praise Blizzard for trying. It would have been so easy for Blizzard to say, well, fuck you. We're just going to do another borrowed power system. We're going to do another expansion the same way we did the Shadowlands. And we're just going to monetize harder. So we're just going to take the remaining player base that we have and we're just going to get more money out of them. I praise Blizzard for the fact that they said, let's do something completely new. And let's see how this works. Let's see if this gets players back in. So on that alone, I say, yes, I think they've done enough. But, you know, obviously be careful because you never know. Things could still go wrong and I could eat my own words, right? So, yeah, I hope that answers your question, I see dead people.
Now you're fully muted. We can't hear you at all.
Yeah, I see dead people. I'm not hearing you.
My other question would be is, what do you think of this new mount collection that they've thrown in at the moment, like just as of in the past 24 hours?
Sorry, it was the mount, the new annualized. You're talking about the annual pass.
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I've sort of given up fighting it. I still won't buy it. That's the way I fight it now, is just by not buying it, just keeping my wallet to myself. I'm still not okay with it for the most part because so what's disgusting for me about it is if you can get people to sign up for an entire year, so you guarantee that you're going to have money for the next year, how can I trust that you're actually going to keep making the game good? So how long am I going to wait for 10.1? 6 months? 8 months? Because you have a year to play with, right? So you can really take your time with this one. So, and that's sort of my problem with it. At least when you have a monthly sub or a 6-month sub, you can keep Blizzard's feet to the fire. Because if they don't deliver new content within that 1 or 3 or 6 month time period, you can unsub, and that can hurt them. But once you've bought the 1-year sub, you're pretty much like, Blizzard doesn't need to care about you until, of course, that 1-year time period is up. So that's the only thing that makes me skeptical, but I realize that a lot of that skepticism comes from the last 2 years. And it's entirely possible that it is unfair and that Blizzard is just doing this because they need to keep the financial department happy. Because I feel like I'm obviously talking, like I could be talking out of my ass here, but I feel like there's two sides in almost every gaming company. And that's how it feels to me these days. You have the developers that really just want to make a good game. And then you have the financial guys that really want to see how far can they push it before they destroy it. And it might be that, people like Ian was like, okay, you know what? If we give you a bunch of mounts and stuff to tie to a 1-year annualized sub, will you get off our fucking backs, or are you gonna make us push even more cash shop bullshit? So we never know what's actually going on behind the scenes. I don't even know how much power Ian has to sort of reject some of these things. But overall, I've given up. I'm not gonna make videos on calling Blizzard out on this shit, because from what I can tell, the majority of players don't give a fuck. They want Blizzard to charge them more. They want Blizzard to take more things out of the game and put it behind paywalls. It sort of feels to me like there's a lot of players that play World of Warcraft that would not care if Blizzard removed every single mount from the game and put it on the cash shop. It feels like there's a lot of players that would be like, well, bro, you can just buy it with gold, and I can still buy my things with gold, And that's the end of the discussion. So, yeah. That's sort of where I am.
Yeah, because I'm seeing it... Sorry. I'm just seeing it as like a massive giant cash cow. Like, it's becoming more and more of a cash cow as time goes on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're milking it for all it's worth. I don't think that's going to last, though. I guess... So, games have historically been... No, let me think how I want to phrase this. All right, Icy Date people. You said that you see the annualized pass and things as a giant cash cow, or at least Blizzard is treating it
absolutely
as such, right? So here's what I would say. Games historically have been recession-proof. That's one of the things that people have always praised gaming for. It actually blew economists away. That during almost every financial crash, if you go to the 2000 .com bubble, if you go to the 2008 financial crisis, even if you move into the 2016, 2013, 2014, there was a mini crisis as well. Gaming didn't go anywhere. It didn't move. It started making more money, because during recessions, games are the cheapest forms of entertainment. Let's just look at this logically. If you go to the movies, it's what? $50? $50 for a ticket? I don't know how much a ticket is in the US. Let's say it's $10, $15 for a ticket, right? You get an hour and a half of entertainment. If you get popcorn and shit, it's probably closer to $30 or whatever. I don't know what the price is. In South Africa, I know, but I don't know in the US or Australia what that would cost. But okay, so let's say an evening out. So that's 4 hours that you're going to spend with like whoever you fucking care about. Let's say that's going to cost you $100 to $150 for an evening out. All right, so you just entertain yourself for 4 hours. What happens if you bought the same amount of games for that money? So you would get probably 2 AAA games and a couple of indie games. How many hours are you going to be able to get out of that? Well, that's probably going to stretch into 3, 4, 5 months, depending on the games that you bought. At least a month at minimum. So dollar to amount of entertainment, there's literally nothing that even comes close to video games. And that's made them historically recession-proof. But games have also changed a lot. The vast majority of games these days isn't just $60. There's $60 plus then a shit ton of other dollars that comes in order to actually play the game correctly. And a lot of these companies have sized themselves on this increased funds. A company like Blizzard has over 7,000 developers that work for the company. They're not making that money to pay all of those developers just through game sales and through subscriptions. They're making it through cash shops. So what happens when people no longer have money? What happens when people run out of cash and they can no longer afford to pay an annualized subscription? They can no longer afford to buy mounts off the cash shop. How quickly do we find out that companies like Blizzard are cutting back and firing employees because it can no longer afford all of those employees that it had? And then you have to start asking yourself, are there enough people at Blizzard with the talent to pick up the slack now that you no longer have the numbers to throw at it. So I do think that we're gonna taste in the coming recessions. We're gonna taste the strength of the AAA industry. It's gonna be tasted, and we're gonna find out exactly how recession-proof a lot of these companies are. And I can't help but think that it's not very. So yeah. I hope that answers your question, Icy Date people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the question, bro. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourself, brother.
You too.
All right. Peace out, man.
You too.
All right. That was an interesting question. I enjoy whenever people ask me like more in-depth questions, like gaming related or industry related questions, because I don't get a lot of time answering shit like that. All right, Moni. Who is next?
All right. Up next is Khaki. I'm pulling him in now.
Oh, fuck. It's the Russian. Hey, you Russian bastard. How you doing?
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, bro. Oh, that accent. As soon as it came through, that accent's just like, oh my God, it's Vladimir Putin.
No. I'm just here to collect your PC data while we talk so I can hack your PC.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Anyways.
It's good to hear you again, man.
Yeah, fucking hell. Good to talk to you again, bro. What's your question, man?
Well, it's not in depth like the last question. I just want to ask about Khadgar. Like, he was really relevant in Legion, like defeating the Legion. Then he fucked off in BFA and he returned in Shadowlands in the end, but he was acting all shady and like, you know what I mean? He was avoiding questions and I just want to know what's your opinion? Like, is he gonna come back? Like, what's his role gonna be going forward in next expansions?
I would say, Cocky. So Khadgar is an interesting character, right? Khadgar was supposed to be the Guardian, yet rejected being the Guardian. However, still maintains to some extent the role of Guardian. Especially since he still calls Karazhan home. And here's where things get really tricky. And this is why Khadgar is probably one of my favorite characters going into Dragonflight, because I do think there's so much that we're going to learn. So, Karazhan is a giant library, for people that don't know. This library contains information that most mortals are not privy to, that we're not allowed to have. This is why no mere mortal, not even Anduin Wrynn, is allowed to walk into Karazhan and just read a book. It's just not allowed. It has wards and protections in place because a lot of the information inside Karazhan is considered to be sacred and sometimes probably even very dangerous. So, yeah, you can't just go in there. Khadgar has obviously access to all of this. Insofar as Khadgar was actually the guy that gave Magni the idea to funnel all of the power out of Sargeras' sword into our weapons. If you guys remember, he gave you a piece of paper at the end of Legion, and you took the paper to Magni, and then Magni told you to basically drain the weapon, right? Gucci Face, how you doing? Thanks for the first one chat. Really appreciate that. So, what did Khadgar read? Because yes, you are correct. Khadgar at the end of Shadowlands, very sus. What did he read? What does Khadgar know about the Shadowlands that we're not supposed to know? Because the way in which Karazhan gets a lot of its information is due to its situation. So Karazhan is slap bang in the middle of two realms. On the one side, it has the Great Beyond, our realm, and on the other, it has the Twisting Nether. The Twisting Nether literally runs through Karazhan. So it is at least speculated on my part that a lot of the information that exists within Karazhan is actually derived from demons within the Twisting Nether. This is where a lot of those books come from. Medivh spent a lot of time in Karazhan, speaking with demons and communicating with demons. So a lot of that information comes from sources that we can either trust or maybe we can't trust. It really depends on how we feel about demons and whether or not Khadgar and Medivh would be intelligent enough to figure out they're being lied to. Khadgar coming to the Shadowlands is really, I think, the biggest sign that he read something that we should be worried about. Because, by the way, Khadgar wasn't just in Shadowlands at the end. We saw Khadgar's Raven in Oribos. I don't want to lie, but I think it was in 9.1. The god Rakim, thanks for the follow, dude. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. Thank you. I think it was in 9.1 where we had a podcast for the patrons, and that's where Apocalypse spoke about. Moni, correct me if I'm wrong. It was 9.1, no?
Yeah, it was 9.1.
Yeah, in 9.1, Apocalypse told us Khadgar is in the Shadowlands. And I remember this was a few months before Balulev's video came out about Khadgar potentially being in the Shadowlands. That's when we already knew that Khadgar was in there. So Khadgar was in there, sort of paying close attention to something, not making himself known, which is already the first sussy bit. I mean, Khadgar is an ally. Most people wouldn't blink twice to see Khadgar there, and yet Khadgar waits right until the end to make himself known, but then also acts incredibly sussy even after he made himself known. I can't answer what that is, though, because I don't know what he read. But I know that whatever he read made him curious enough that he spent the entirety of the expansion flying about Oribos, probably because he knew that no one would pay attention to a lone raven just flying around and sort of sitting on a perch. People would just think, oh, this is a raven that came through the portal, poor guy. And it would probably give him unfettered access to all of the realms so that he could see what these other beings are up to without them actually knowing that he's there. And that should scare the living fuck out of you guys. Me too, but it should scare us. Khadgar knows things.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like when we first saw him, it's like he didn't expect us to know that that he's there. Like, oh, you're here. Fuck, I didn't prepare a dialogue to lie to you guys, like to explain why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, oh, oops. There's definitely something incredibly sus going on there. The question is just to what end? Like, what's the end goal? I can't answer that. I genuinely don't know. The God Rackham, thank you so much. I'd really appreciate you being here. Thanks for the first time chat, man. Gaki, do you have anything to add, or is that your question?
No, that's my question. I just want to add, maybe he knows about the old god you mentioned that's hidden beneath the mob.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's speculation on my part. We don't have any evidence to suggest that there is an old god, but I believe that there is an old god that lives inside Torghast. Because it makes sense. That's what Torghast is. At least in my opinion.
Prison inside a prison. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a prison inside a prison. It's a prison that always changes and makes you fucking crazy. Kind of seems like that could be a good place to hide an old god. Because an old god that sees every single truth, the only way that you're going to keep it hidden or keep it locked up is by having a prison that literally changes the whole time. So it doesn't even matter that you see all of the truths, because the prison will change before you can actually execute the truth that you've seen on how to escape it. So, yeah, that's sort of my opinion on it. But, of course, I could be wrong. I have no idea.
I see, yeah. I just have one more quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah, fuck. Go for it, bro.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but do you think that maybe the first ones are the other forces are trying to destroy Azeroth because she's able to make, sentient beings, flesh beings with blood and everything.
Yeah.
And the other forces, the Zereth Mortis, mm-hmm. They make robots that obey, they are literally programmed to obey.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to destroy Azeroth because she can make sentient beings that have free will. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's definitely something that bothers me. It's definitely something that I've been thinking about, is that we don't know if it's Azeroth because we don't have any evidence that Azeroth physically created anything. We do know that the old gods created the mortals, right? Due to the curse of flesh. And I believe there was actually some mention of the old gods doing it on other planets as well. I can't remember where I read that, but I think I read that, or I may have dreamt that. I don't know. I do sometimes dream of WoW, so it could be that I dreamt that. But I think what's interesting is that the old gods on Azeroth was able to create a curse that creates life. Now, for beings that favor destruction and want to destroy everything, the idea that they would have the ability to create life should immediately bring up question marks in everyone's minds. How? If this being is hell-bent on destruction, why then does it provide us with flesh? And here things get even more troubling. After they cursed according to the Titans, the Titan keepers, or the constructs with the curse of flesh, they did not enslave these newly created flesh beings. In fact, the Titan keepers write that they couldn't keep up with how fast these fleshlings were traveling and sort of trying to escape. So, in other words, the old gods did not curse us so that we would become their instruments. They almost cursed us to provide us freedom. Freedom from the yoke of control that the Titans wield. So that was interesting to me, and I found that to be quite, I guess, troubling or puzzling, I guess is the right word. But yeah, there's definitely something there. It's not so much, I think, that they want to destroy Azeroth. It's that they want to keep her safe, considering that she is probably the only one, if my speculations are correct at least, Azeroth is the only one that, through her servants, the old gods, can create life. And considering that our entire universe is based on anima, without life there isn't much anima. So they kind of need us in order to create more anima. And that's why Azeroth has been enslaved, is for this endless cycle of anima. But that's just, that's just speculation. I don't have any evidence for that, at least not at the moment. But you can bet your ass I'm going to spend a lot of time in Dragonflight looking for that evidence.
Yeah, I just want to add something. It's not a question. It doesn't make sense because people say that the old gods are creatures of the void. But if they give us free will, like you have mortals that can choose to follow the light or fel or order or anything, that doesn't make sense. If they cursed us, then we should by default follow them and void and like shadow magic. But we have free will to choose any magic we want.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. But this is again why I say the old gods do not seem to enslave us. They seem particularly to just provide freedom. Chaos. They want absolute freedom. Now, the Titans, it makes sense that the Titans would view freedom as chaos, because the Titans do not free anyone. They keep everything locked up. They want control of everything. So it's sort of like this battle between absolute control and absolute freedom. And this might be why the Titans hate the Void Lords or the Old Gods, because they stand for ultimate freedom rather than ultimate control. But then, of course, there's also evidence of the Old Gods actually controlling people's minds and making people crazy. So that throws things a bit out of whack as well. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult to figure out. Very difficult.
Yeah, I see. Well, thank you for answering. That's pretty much everything from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the question, bro. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourself, bro.
You too, man. See ya.
Peace. Ace the Base, Zeroth Mortis is tied to Azeroth. Is it specific for us? No, I don't know. Because I don't think Zeroth Mortis is tied to Azeroth. I don't think any of the Zeroth Mortis are tied to Azeroth. I think once they locked Azeroth up, they tied her inadvertently to Zeroth Mortis and to the other Zeroth realms in order to continue to produce. the beings that they needed and all the power that they needed in order to do so. But I don't think that she herself is tied there. I think it's shall we say, it's an artificial link. Let's call it that. It's an artificial link. Moni, who is next?
All right. Before that, I would like to shamelessly plug the podcast, just because you referenced it during this question. So
Yeah.
be sure to join that, because we often have to figure out things before Bellular makes a video of it.
True. It can sometimes happen. Yeah, I don't know when we're gonna do. I think the next podcast will be tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure that tomorrow night we'll do podcast. Yeah, because I can't stream tomorrow. Yeah, I can't stream tomorrow afternoon. I have some shit that I have to take care of, and I have the podcast with Rurikon in the morning. So yeah, absolutely. So tomorrow night we'll do the next podcast. So if you're not on Patreon already, jump over to Patreon, sign up there so that you can get access to the podcast. Anyways, okay.
Yep. That being said, we have the man, myth, and legend Digimerc is up next.
Shit! It's the Germans. The Germans are invading, Mr. Digitmerc. Rurikon, you motherfucker! We were literally just speaking about you with your 64 raid. Really appreciate it. Welcome everyone from Rurikon stream. Very happy to have you guys here. Yeah, we have a German in the chat wanting to ask a question. Digit, how you doing, fam?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, that's good.
Good, bro. What's your question?
So I have to use my iPhone for now, but I hope it's good.
Yeah, I can hear you. What's your question, Digit?
But before, how are you doing, man? I know the year has been crazy and it's still crazy, but no.
So God, thanks for the follow, dude. Really appreciate it. Digit. My life's the same, pretty much, always. You know, I wake up, I go to the gym, I come home, I stream. That's, you know. So, yeah, the world is falling apart around me, but, you know, my room is still standing, and that's pretty much all I care about. As long as I can stream and make videos, I'm pretty good. So yeah, I'm still doing fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm not too bad, holding my own as well.
Nice, bro.
Even
nice.
Germany is now in a state of, you never know.
Yeah, the world is fucked, bro. We're all, look, there's one of two options here. Actually, there's three options. Option number one is everything works out fine and everyone's great, right? And life just goes back to normal eventually, and it's going to be a little bit tough for a while, but, you know, nothing to worry about. Lord QnA, by the way, thanks for 12 months, part of the DJ Nation. Appreciate it.
Indeed.
Thank you. Option number two, Digit, is World War breaks out and all of us have to fight, which is gonna fucking blow ass. So I hope that isn't it. The third option, and I know that a lot of you are gonna say, Akalon, that will never happen. But
I'm gonna head down.
Considering how evil or how much evil has happened in the last 2 years, a zombie apocalypse could happen. Like, I'm not saying it will happen, but it could happen. I mean, if I told you guys 3 years ago there's going to be a giant pandemic that's almost going to fucking ruin everyone,
honestly.
You guys would have said, no, it's not going to happen. But it could fucking happen, though. And at that point, you're going to be glad that you're a gamer. Because if there's anyone that is prepared...
The most thing will be still the...
Yeah? Did you?
I think the most fear thing will be the AI once it's completely evolved.
I mean, it could also be AI, but in that case, we need the Emperor to be born and fucking quick. Because Yeah, we're gonna need the Emperor for that shit. But yeah, okay, so I would say that if it is zombies, I'm really hoping for like T-Virus.
Okay, anyways.
I am hoping for T-Virus if it is zombies. I don't want the World War Z zombies. Those things are fucking nuts. I don't want any zombies that can run. Only zombies that can walk briskly is fine by me. Because unlike in the movies, I will not look behind me the whole time and trip over a fucking brick. Okay? So, I'll be fine. Even fat fuck like me will be fine if it's normal zombies like Resident Evil zombies. So, yeah. Just wanted to put that out there. Anyways, Digit. Sorry about that, bro. What is your question?
Yeah. I'm good. So basically, I have been thinking for something for some time now.
Okay.
This is now, it's the moment, that blue guy, Pelagos, became the new Arbiter.
Yeah.
Shouldn't he supposed to have the same knowledge, power like Zoao he used to have?
Not
Able to see the distance?
not necessarily, because by becoming Arbiter, he doesn't necessarily have to possess the knowledge of Zuval. He simply needs to be able to see the lives of all of those who had died. And this is where Blizzard could probably come up with some explanations as to the room.
I mean, I wonder if Zoao saw that whatever he feared, should the new Arbiter able to do that too?
Oh, in that case, okay, so if that's what you mean, no. He would almost definitely not have seen that, because I think whatever Zuval saw that scared him was in the life of someone. So there was someone that died, and in that life, Zuval saw something that scared him enough to realize that the entire world is fucked if he doesn't act. So that would be something that only belongs to Zuval right now. Now, in the future, there is an opportunity, of course, for Pelagos to see something similar. I wouldn't bank on that, though, because Pelagos seems to be far more duty-driven than Zuval, because remember, Pelagos is not actually an Eternal One. Pelagos is just the Arbiter. As far as Eternal Ones go, I would argue Pelagos is probably still below the other Eternal Ones, at least for now. And in that regard, I don't think Pelagos would act on his own. Pelagos would probably, if he did see something, Pelagos would go. And what's interesting is that Denathrius, in the final cinematic of Shadowlands, Denathrius is actually the one that tells Zuval, "You should have come to us, brother. We could have found another way." As if at some point Denathrius did know why Zuval was so afraid. Sorry, Digit? Yeah?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. So it feels like at some point he did find out why Zuval was so afraid. And he believed, at least to some extent, that if Zuval told them, they would probably all have seen it the same way. But what could it be? What could possibly be so evil, so scary, that a being of Zuval's power is like, nope, not dealing with that shit. There's no way we're dealing with that crap. It has to be something huge, right? It has to be something much bigger than what we're used to. Because I don't buy that it's just Void Lords. I'm sorry. I don't buy that it's just the Void. The issue with that is, if it is just the Void, we've shown that we can kill old gods. We've shown that we can fight the old gods. So you don't need to dominate the entirety of the universe in order to stop the old gods. You just need a bunch of mortals that's really motivated to get some gear and they'll take him down. So it has to be something that is even bigger than that. Something that's even scarier than that.
Yeah, to this extent, I think I had sort of a follow-up thinking.
Okay.
That something like there is a necessary force that is inevitable. Like the Legion.
It's possible that he saw some kind of invading force. Now you have to
It is
understand.
still far away again, but we remember.
Well, here's where things get really interesting, Digit and everyone in chat.
Every time they came back. Sorry.
No. I just want to say, here's where things get really interesting. Zuval spends his time as the Arbiter. Remember what the Arbiter does. The Arbiter looks at the lives of every single being that has ever lived. What if Zuval sees one day, he's standing there, chilling, watching everyone's lives flash before his eyes, making decisions and sending them to their afterlives. And then suddenly he sees this flood of souls that arrive in the Arbiter's room. Seeing their lives, their last final moments, it is so graphic, so incredibly evil, because he sees an entire planet being purged almost overnight. Almost in an instant, he sees a planet being purged. Now, there is a chance that this could be the Void, and there is a chance that I could know exactly what that moment was. When the Void Lord consumed the Ethereals. Can you imagine the incredible pain and anguish Zuval would have witnessed in that moment? All of those millions upon millions of ethereal souls flooding the ones who were unlucky enough that didn't get into the barriers. Can you imagine what Zuval saw that day? He saw a force that was literally unstoppable. There is nothing they can do. Because how do you fight something that literally consume you? So if you stood against a Void Lord, it would consume you. It's not like you can throw a couple of punches. By the time your fist reaches the Void Lord, it's already consumed. It just sucks it dry. That could very easily be that moment, because it is a very obscure moment in World of Warcraft, the whole ethereal death of the Ethereals, or their homeworld at least. So it's entirely possible that that is what turned Zuval. That is what scared the living shit out of Zuval, was when he saw the final moments of those Ethereals and realized there is nothing they can do to stop this. He was like, alright, fuck. We have to unite the entire universe. No one should have the ability to step out of line. Because he understands, right? The Void Lords don't just come into the Great Beyond. They have to be invited in. And they're usually invited in due to our hubris. Due to bullshit that we do that we're not supposed to do. And it could be that that was the moment that Zuval realized everything has to change. That's just me spitballing, though. I'm not entirely sure, of course. Right? Looney, how you doing? Thanks for the first time chat, by the way. Really appreciate that.
I think the thing whatever Sageras meant to... Oh, sorry.
No. Go for it.
I think Sageras was actually had a plan for the thing what he saw himself, when he destroyed the planet of Full Void. I think he made this decision.
I mean, it is possible.
They need a new force.
Yeah, it is possible. That's probably why he decided to get the demons.
So he went to the Fel.
Yeah. He chose the Fel.
Yeah.
And Zuval chose Dave.
I don't know, because I don't know if there was a war. If there already was a war between the Void and the Legion. But I feel like the Legion is the really only force might be able to withstand the Void psychic or something like this.
Technically speaking,
What do you think about it?
Yeah, technically speaking, the Legion should be the only one that could sustain it or could withstand it, because the Legion is very similar to the Tyranids, so to speak, in Warhammer. I think they've always been at war because none of the other cosmological forces like the Legion.
Legion is a force that's needed.
Sorry, yeah?
So I have to delay here, so it's a bit strange.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Well, sorry, what I meant, I thought Legion, I think, is a necessary force in that matter. So.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that they would use them as a weapon. I agree with you there. I agree with you that Sargeras saw them probably as the only weapon capable of taking down the Void Lords. So yeah, I can absolutely agree with that. Digit?
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions, Digit, or is that it?
Well, I can't yet say it to be 100%, but I feel like when I was on the Earth beta myself, I saw this shining red star shining a bit bigger than if I remember.
Yeah, the problem is that we don't know of any patches so far. Considering all of the data mining that people do, someone would have found a patch file that makes the star appear bigger. I think that star in the heaven is gonna come either at the end of this expansion or at the end of next expansion. I do think the star is going to feature in this expansion though, but it's only going to become very relevant either at the end of this one or the beginning of next one.
And I saw exactly the same picture, the same amount, same red shining star.
Yeah.
The planet behind it or in front. A moon.
I'm not entirely sure. All I know about that star is that if it disappears, we're fucked. So, Looney, to answer your question as well, yes. If the star disappears, it's GG. It's really bad news for everyone. That star should not go anywhere. Now,
I'm not saying disappearing. I mean, like getting bigger.
No, I know you're saying it's getting bigger. I'm answering someone in chat. The question you guys have to ask yourselves, though, is why is that bad news if it disappears? What I think is if it disappears, it means that the Titans are dead.
Let me see.
Because the star belongs to the Titans. It's where the Pantheon is. So it might be that if that disappears, it means that the Pantheon has fallen. And that's why it's really bad news. Because the protectors of the realm is gone. Or whatever the case may be. Anyways, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Can I upload you a picture on Discord?
Yeah, sure you can. Just tell me, are you DMing me or are you just uploading it in one of the channels?
Okay, I'm gonna post on the media, law media, just then.
All right, I'm there. It's lore media, right? Under World of Warcraft.
I've done, yeah.
All right, so this is the picture. See, the thing is, it looks, as far as I'm concerned, it looks the same. Does anyone have any pictures of this before the new patch? The white lady and the red star is nothing, Giant Rat Guy. That's not a thing that exists. It's the white lady and the blue child, you bastard. The fuck are you talking about? No, I think the moon is just there.
But if you look closely, it looks like a 5.
Wait, that's a good question. Why is the moon there? This is in daytime, no? Or is this early morning? Could be early morning, right? Digit?
Yeah.
When was this picture taken? 5:19.
Is the time standing?
I'm trying to look. It looks like it's 20 minutes past
It's
5.
afternoon.
Is it in the afternoon? So why the fuck is the moon there? Is the moon always there?
I never saw that before that. That's why I'm asking, like.
Oh no, there's other pictures of it as well. Of it with a moon there. But hold up. This is Reddit. When was this posted? Give me a moment. Let me just see. I don't know when this was posted. I don't know if it's Argeris. We know that the star remained once the Pantheon pulled back. For some reason, Reddit is not wanting to fucking load here. If you look at the size of it, it looks exactly the same, right? In terms of size, there's no difference. It's still the exact same size. So that's not something I would really
Can
pay
you see
attention
the pattern, the lines coming from the star?
Yeah, but there's other pictures here with the same kind of lines. Like if you look at that picture, it also has those lines. C#, how you doing, bro? Thanks for the follow. Really appreciate that. That picture there also has the lines coming out of the star.
Like the 5-star pentagram, no?
Yeah, but I don't think... I don't know how relevant that would be. Let me just see. This was 4 years ago. Okay, no. The moon being in front of it is natural, seemingly. There are places where you can take the picture and the moon is in front of the star. You can see this picture is 4 years ago. Digit? This is a 4-year-old picture.
Okay, good to know. Okay.
Yeah, so sadly, we can't get excited about that yet, but let's fucking keep hoping that there is eventually something that happens to that fucking star that we can get excited by. Because I'm definitely looking forward to that star being something. I don't know what, but hopefully soon. Anyway, Digit, is that all your questions, or did you have anything else for us?
I have some more, but it will be extending those, so I'm gonna leave for next time or so.
All right, yeah. Once you have your PC back, that you don't have all this lag, that should be great. Because I think the lag is fucking
headphones,
making it difficult for you to actually chat. All right. Anyways.
Yeah.
Digit, I really appreciate you.
Oh, it's nice to have a chit-chat with you again.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, brother. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourself, bro.
Yeah, likewise.
King Julian.
Yeah, you too.
Looney, thank you so much for the follow. See you around, bro. See you in the chat. Looney, thanks for the follow. Really appreciate that. Sorry, guys. I just need to speak to King Julian quickly. King Julian, we are aware that the moon is a loon. What the fuck are you saying? You're asking, or you're making it sound as if that means something. Whenever you see the white lady in the sky, that is a loon. It's always there. It's fucking natural. At least in terms of Azeroth, it is natural. If you told me that a loon was an hour moon in real life, that would be fucking unnatural. But in World of Warcraft, it's incredibly natural. That's how it should be. A loon is the fucking moon. Holy shit. Anyways, Moni, who is next?
All right, up next we've got just going back to where I was. Sorry.
No worries.
We've got one from Rocket Admin Dave. So for you Pokemon fans, you better watch out. Apparently, Team Rocket's in our Discord now.
I don't know what any of that means, but okay.
He asks, did Deathwing's soul end up in the Shadowlands, or was it claimed by the Void?
Oh. Interesting.
I believe that all dragon souls are sent to the Emerald Dream, are they not?
Yeah, but we're gonna have to talk about that a little. But first of all, Go-Kart Mozart, thanks so much for the Prime sub. But that is 9 months part of the DJ Nation. Appreciate you. Thank you. Sounds good. No, I've never watched Pokemon. I know nothing about Pokemon. So yeah, I don't know jack shit about that. Whatever that is. Okay, so we have to talk about this. The origin lore for World of Warcraft suggests that all dragons go back to the Emerald Dream and they spend time at the World Tree in the Emerald Dream, recuperating and becoming the guardians of the Emerald Dream. That's supposed to be their natural cycle. Now we have learned in Shadowlands that no, they kind of probably go to Ardenweald. But considering that there is a back door into the Shadowlands through Ardenweald in the Dream, this would suggest that Ardenweald and the Dream is either the same place or so closely connected that they may as well be the same place. So when you talk about the Emerald Dream and talking about Ardenweald, you're probably mostly talking about the same place. At least theoretically. Or functionally, rather. Now, in saying that, we also know that souls, through incredible amounts of power, can redirect the flow of souls. Or souls can be redirected, but it takes an incredible amount of power. The kind of power that Void Lords would probably have. No? They would be powerful enough to alter the direction of a soul. The question becomes, how attached are the Void Lords to a fallen servant of theirs? Towards the end, one almost gets this idea that the old gods had given up on Deathwing. They were no longer really caring about him. That would be my takeaway, at least. It feels like that is the case. But then again, it might be completely wrong. It might be that the old gods did claim him. Now, I don't think his soul, if anything, would go to the Void. If I'm correct about the Void, if a soul did go to the Void, it would be consumed in its entirety. Because if a soul is anima, and anima is energy, and it's literally almost unlimited energy, the Void consumes energy. So a soul couldn't exist. So that means that Deathwing would probably have gone to Nyalotha. Nyalotha seems to be a place on Azeroth. Very specifically, if you look at how quickly N'Zoth was able to establish portions of Nyalotha on Azeroth, okay, it would appear as if Nyalotha is at least a place either tied to Azeroth or attached to Azeroth or on Azeroth, maybe in a different dimension. And it is possible that Deathwing's soul is in there. But what does that Deathwing look like? If we go back to the puzzle box of Yogg-Saron, it speaks about only mad things walking in Nyalotha. And that Nyalotha is a place of terrible, unnumbered crimes. So again, we come back to would we ever want to meet that Deathwing? Considering he might be stone cold fucking nuts. And, who knows what the fuck's going to happen with that. Yeah?
He very well could be, when we saw him at the end of the Dragon Soul raid with all of the tentacles coming out of him and shit, that could be like his true corrupted form that his soul takes, and very well could be what we'd see if we traveled to Nyalotha.
Yeah, like Looney said in chat as well, it could be that Deathwing had become so old god-esque, so he became so enthralled and drenched in old god magic and in void magic that he himself became an old god towards the end. Because at the end, you know, he was completely deformed and misformed and just wrecked. So there is a possibility of that being the case. There's no precedent for it, though. We don't know how old gods are created, but we're pretty sure it's not like that.
Yeah, the closest example we have is Gahoon.
Yeah. And Gahoon was almost definitely created as an experiment by the Titans. Deathwing would not be that. Now, again, all of this goes down to how much or what ultimately, because we know that if you become corrupted enough by the Void, you turn into one of their monstrosities. Like, they can actually turn you into a monster with enough corruption. So there is a chance that they could turn you into an old god with enough corruption. But then what happens to old gods when they die? Either their shards, their portions return to the Void? Or do they stay on Azeroth? Do they go into Ny'alotha? I have no idea. I generally don't. There is a third option that Blizzard could start to work out. Remember the place, it's in one of the books that we got from the Journal of the Keepers, the one where they lied to us. There's a place they speak about where all the heretics went. Now remember, the heretics are the servants of the old gods. And they explain how they can't get into the heretics area. They couldn't reach it. They sent multiple, shall we say... No, it's not muted. They sent multiple missions or groups out to try and reach the island, and every single time no one came back. So what if that island is in fact where the old gods originate from? What if that is where the font of their power is? What if Deathwing and Galakrond is on that island?
Like, is this an island on Azeroth?
According to them, because the boats seem to have left from the Dragon Isles and it went to somewhere. I can't remember what the name is of the place. A something. Mm-hmm. Alderson, or is that? It might be no. What the fuck was it called again? But there's a place where the heretics live, and that's where they could never reach it. They could never fucking go there.
I mean, we have precedent for that.
Avaloran. Thank you, Avaloran. That's the one. Thank you. Yes, it's not Alderson, the viewer. It's Avaloran, the place. There we go. Yeah, apparently they could never reach it. The heretics made that their home, and they would just defend it with everything in them. What precedents do we have for it?
Oh, I was saying that we do have a precedent for like void-esque things attached to the Dragon Isles, because in Vanilla WoW, you know, they were going to do the Dragon Isles, and it had that Nautilus old god type entity that we see in Vashir.
Yeah.
That was highly tied to the Dragon Isles. So the reason I was saying that isn't too far of a stretch is that concept of void on the Dragon Isles could have been built into this this new island that they have been journeying to.
It's also possible. I mean, the possibilities at this point are quite endless. Like, the directions that Blizzard could physically take with this expansion is endless. They could go anywhere. And that's what should excite all of us, especially those of us that love the lore. we should be very excited for what the story can ultimately become. Because they're not tied down anymore. We're dealing with Tolgrim. Thanks so much for the first time chat. Really appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. Thank you. They can go wherever they want now. Because we're now in a world where the lore was sparse at best. You know, most of the lore we had of this era was very much just retellings of, you know, the ancient times, and not in as much detail as one would hope. So Blizzard could absolutely do just an unlimited amount of things. And I really hope that they will take advantage of that and do an unlimited amount of things.
Yeah, and I for one like that they are showing the bias of the Titans and how not everything they say is possibly true, or how most of it could even be just propaganda.
Yeah. So, Morny, what you just said there is actually something I wanted to talk about, because it's something that I see in comment sections literally on almost all of my videos where I talk about this stuff. There's this faction or group within World of Warcraft that seems to think that stories with incredibly sort of how do I begin to phrase this? Okay. Let's start with the type of stories that you get. And there are 3 types of storytelling methods that one can employ. The first one, and arguably the most trusted, and all of this is thanks to a guy called Luton09, who is a Warhammer content creator. But the first is the omnipresent God storyteller. Okay? That's it. It's God. God tells stories. The second, arguably less trustworthy, but still probably somewhat trustworthy, is the first-person storyteller. This is where something happens to you and you're talking about the thing that happened to you, or you're talking us through the thing that is happening to you. And then the third one, and arguably the most untrustworthy of the 3, is the hearsay storyteller. This is where you heard something from someone about something that happened that you were not a party of. Now, there are variations of each one of those 3, but those are the 3 main vehicles through which stories can be told. And what I hear from a lot of people is that they hate that Blizzard is moving towards the second one. They're hating the fact that Blizzard is moving more towards the first person and hearsay storytelling methods, because they believe that it will destroy World of Warcraft. They believe that no story can exist on that premise, told through what we would normally refer to as the unreliable narrator. Now, to that, I would like to point a couple of things out. Let's accept your premise that stories that do have unreliable narrators, let's accept that those stories suffer. You have an issue. The god level narrator is obviously always the best, because everything that it says, everything that you read is absolutely canonical. 100%. Okay? And that's good. Probably. For the most part. Except when your story is quite literally unending. So you have no end to your story. This is where god level storytelling can become incredibly difficult to uphold. Because what happens if in 2 or 3 expansions from now you come up with a new story that is really cool, but it directly conflicts with a story that you had earlier, and now you can't change it because that story earlier was in fact God. So it can't be changed because the canonical lore suggests that this is wrong. So you do end up, after a time, you will end up painting yourself into a corner that you can't get out of. It's just, yeah, it's just unavoidable. And then you're going to have to start doing hard retcons, which always pisses people off, because no one likes an unreliable narrator. People want to know that what they read is true, unless they know from the start that what they read might be true. And this is what a lot of people don't seem to think about. You see, unreliable narrators are only a problem when you first believed the narrator to be reliable, and then it turns out the narrator is not reliable. That's where the problem comes in. You see, so what what a lot of people don't understand is if you look at a game, or if you look at a universe like Warhammer 40k, it relies solely and completely, absolutely on the unreliable narrator. Every single part of that entire world is described to you through the eyes of someone, not a god, just a character. The character gives you an incredibly unlikely scenario or report of what is happening, and for the time until new evidence arrive, this is the only thing you know of that universe, is that this thing happened according to this character. Now, what this does, and this is something that you'll find whenever you dive into Warhammer 40k, is just an ungodly amount of speculation. That community is massive, and there are so many speculators in that community because it opens up the possibility for speculation. Because the saying in Warhammer, I believe, is that everything is true and nothing is canon. That's the saying from the Warhammer community. So, yeah, everything is true. Whatever you think is true. But there is no canon. Games Workshop themselves reject the idea of canon. Because they knew, they understood that if you have a story that lasts for more than 10 years, it's not going to work. Right? It's just not going to fucking work. Mr. Demoria, I had that as the same thing, right? Everything is canon, not everything is true. And then I saw a quote from Games Workshop themselves. I can't remember where I saw it, but the quote from Games Workshop themselves that basically said they reject the idea of canon in its entirety. So I just sort of adapted it a little, because not everything is true, although everything is true until new information comes out, right? So it's basically all you need to know about the Warhammer universe is that there is no true. There's only true right now. Now, that works for a number of reasons. Number one, it allows for such longevity of a project because you can effectively go anywhere and nothing you do can really change it. All you need for that story to work, and someone said in chat, who was it? Someone wrote there, Voiden said, unreliable narrators make for really rad stories though. I agree with you 100%, but there are a couple of things you need for unreliable storytelling to work. And that is, you have to be very careful and you have to pay a lot of attention to detail. Because if you have unreliable narrators, you can't just ignore the narration. If you're going to retcon an unreliable narrator, you have to keep in mind what the original narration actually stated. Because if you just go off the fucking deep end to a place that is entirely impossible from what the original narration was, you're again going to end up with a character, with players that's going, what? This makes no sense. You know, say for example, Gilliman walks into a room, it's a blue room that Gilliman walks into. And in the middle of this room, there's a giant cross, and on the cross is written Emperor. But then another character walks in, and actually it's a purple room, and in the middle there's a giant circle, and in the circle there's written Nurgle. Suddenly the player goes, what? So you have to keep track of the narration. But if you do that correctly, it works. And it can work really well. I feel like in World of Warcraft, a lot of people are still holding on to this idea of everything I read must be absolutely true. And then they get really triggered when everything they read isn't absolutely true. Maria the Pigeon, by the way, just want to say thank you so much. 11 months, part of the DJ Nation. Appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am really hoping that players can take in World of Warcraft to this new direction of storytelling, because I can promise you, as someone that's only recently gotten into the Warhammer universe, it is phenomenal. It is just, it's such a brilliant universe. And it's made brilliant due to the fact that there are no reliable storytellers. Everyone is suspicious, and everyone has their own sort of their own baggage that they bring to the storytelling, and the game makes clear, the books make clear that this is in fact what is happening. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this new level of storytelling, because I do think that, coupled with all the other good news we got from Preach, is just going to be phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to that. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way, because it's just, yeah, there's a lot of people that get really annoyed at this new storytelling direction, and I feel like it's just people that's not paying attention. Anyways,
I agree.
let me just quickly here, 11th month, let's go. Also, just watch your reaction to the Legacies Part 2. I wanted to mention, what if Nostormo is trying to see who put the Draktyr into sleep? Or something along those lines. Well, we already know kind of who imprisoned the Draktyr, and we think it was Deathwing, so it might not be that, but it is possible, of course. Again, thank you so much for the sub. Really appreciate that. Adelia, how you doing? Okay, Morny, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just going to say that I agree with you on the unreliable narrator. The thing we just have not seen is it done in WoW, and that's probably what's so jarring, is that it's a amazing tool to use, but WoW has only used it sparingly, if not at all. And it's probably just throwing people for a curveball, because they've been used to everything stated in game or even in interviews is law.
True. I think a lot of people are going to be it's going to take time, right, for people to adapt and accept that this is the way that story is supposed to happen. Especially in universes that just continue. Look, God-level stories is great for things that have an ending. It's fine. You can do a God-level storyteller narration in thing that ends. But you can't really do it in a never-ending story, because it just becomes too complicated after a while. So but also, it's not just players that have to accept it. It's also Blizzard that have to be very careful in how they implement it and how they approach it, to ensure that it's very obvious that all of these stories that we're learning about is from someone's perspective. But what I find more often than not from people that is sort of very much against this new sort of first-person storytelling method, it's people that just have their own headcanon destroyed, because there are now things that is true in World of Warcraft that they reject on the whole of it. So, for example, there's a commenter the other day that actually got really annoyed that I would say that the light is evil, because according to them, and no hate towards this commenter, they comment on almost every single video. They always have very interesting takes, even though I don't agree with all of their takes all the time. But they get really annoyed because the light is supposed to be this holy light from Warcraft 2. And the truth is, no. That was never what the light was supposed to be. And the fact that anyone would even think that that is what the light is in World of Warcraft is ridiculous. Because the light has not been a good force since Warcraft 2. Since then, we've had Warcraft 3, and we've had every other expansion in World of Warcraft. And the light has just never shown itself to be a good force whatsoever. So I do think there's also just a lot of personal sort of, I don't want this, and therefore I'm rejecting it on the whole of it. But I do think over time people will just accept it and realize that this is actually not bad. This is actually very good. Feel the cred. How you doing, bro? Thanks for the first one, chat. Really appreciate that. Did you read One Piece? It's possible to have never-ending story. That is really good. Feel the cred. I never said that it's not possible to have a never-ending story that's really good, though. That's not what I said. I said that if you're gonna have God-level storytelling, and what I mean when I say God-level storytelling is you have God telling you a story. Okay, so every word that is typed out on the paper is canon. It's true. It's 100% the word of God. You can change nothing. You can add nothing. You can remove nothing. Everything is as is written. It is very difficult to have a never-ending story with that with those restrictions. Because if your story just always evolves, and it's this one universe that just continuously evolves, there's going to come a point where you're going to write yourself into a corner where you can just no longer go because you wrote something 10 years ago that you now want to change because the story needs to go in this direction, but you cannot change it because 10 years ago you said that this is what happens. And that's what makes it very difficult to tell stories like that. Or that our fate in WoW is also already written. All these pantheons fear the same thing. Morazon saying the end time is better than the fate to come. Yeah, I mean, our fate is probably already written. Remember, there's one final thing that we don't always speak about, but it is something that is confirmed in World of Warcraft. The Ladies of Fate. We know that there is such a thing. Fate is an actual being in World of Warcraft. We just don't know who or how that operates. But we know that there is a Lady of Fate. So, it is possible. The Lady of Fate is striking now for the first time that we know of by demanding that Malfurion go into Ardenweald because, you know, fuck it. He was supposed to die earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes no damn sense to me.
Yeah, but, you know, anyway. Who's next, Molly?
Up next is D-Rock. Pulling him in now.
All right. D-Rock, how you doing?
1 second. I gotta mute the stream real quick.
You fucking pleb. How are you not prepared, bro?
Sorry, I was playing Call of Duty, you know. Gotta give Bob. Yeah.
No worries, man. How you doing, brother?
Okay, I have quite a few questions, actually.
All right.
I went down like a rabbit hole.
Okay.
So, now that we know that the Titans basically propaganded all of us or brainwashed everyone on Azeroth thinking that they're the best, does the Old God Whispers have a different meaning now, knowing what we know now and from Shadowlands?
Yes and no. I've gone through some of the whispers, and it seems like some of the whispers were talking about the Shadowlands, but it only seemed so far in as, you know, once the Shadowlands ended, a lot of those whispers that looked as if it was talking about the Shadowlands may actually be speaking of something else. So the fact is, those whispers, I think, is going to be with us for a long time. Because, I mean, some of them have already come true, and we know the ones that have already come true, but there's still a ton of whispers that have not played themselves out, that have only presented themselves at moments where we go, oh, that could be it. And then, you know, the story finishes and like, oh, okay, never mind. Probably not that. In regards to the whispers from what we know now in Dragonflight, this is where things get really interesting. Because if I am correct in my speculation that Azeroth is indeed the mother of the Old Gods, or that the Old Gods are her servants, this would mean that their whispers are warnings to us. Warnings to us about the beings of the Great Beyond. And how the Great Beyond's beings should not be trusted at any given point in time. That is possible, right? But again, it really depends. So, I don't know if you have a specific take on that, D-Rock, but that's basically where I am now.
I just found it really interesting because, like, the Il'gynoth Whispers, they're like, oh, accept his gift, the gift of flesh and all that. And people are like, oh, no, you're crazy. You're an old god. I'm not going to listen to you. But now that we know it's like an actual gift and not a curse per se, that they probably gave us freedom, that what if Ny'alotha is basically not heaven, but like a place in Azeroth where they go back to? Because when you kill Il'gynoth, he says something like, oh, N'Zoth, I go home to Ny'alotha. Like, are they really dead, or do they just go somewhere?
Wait, D-Rock, repeat that question? Sorry, repeat your question? I don't want to get it wrong.
So basically, like, when an old god dies, we technically don't know where they go, right?
Yeah.
But Il'gynoth says when you kill him in Legion, he says, N'Zoth, I come home to Ny'alotha.
Yes.
So, is Ny'alotha a place on Azeroth, or is that a place outside of Azeroth? Because if it's in Azeroth, that means Azeroth basically created this place for them, instead of going like how the Titans, they would go back to the Order, or if you kill a Na'Vi, they go back to the Light.
Yeah. So it's one of two things. So either Azeroth created Ny'alotha for the old gods to exist there, or they anchored themselves to Azeroth in some way, shape, or form. So we shouldn't ever forget that they potentially do have the ability to anchor themselves. So it doesn't have to be Azeroth. Now, this is where we get into the Avaloran, the place that I literally just spoke about. We know that it is filled with heretics. These are heretics keepers, by the way, or heretic keepers that just rejected the claims of the Titans. They refused to accept the Titans as the leaders and as the creators of the universe, and instead they almost wholesale bought into the idea of the Black Empire. We know that the Titans, or the Titan Keepers at least, were at war with these beings for a time. We don't know exactly how long they've been at war with each other, but we know that they were. We also don't know how that war ended. We just know that they, like, the final messages we got from it was a warning that another expedition should not be sent because they cannot bear to lose any more keepers. So clearly these heretics, wherever they are well protected. This, of course, also provides us with a little bit of evidence, or maybe a little bit of insight into why no one has ever been able to sail to the other side of Azeroth. Remember, everyone that has ever tried to sail to the other side of Azeroth has never returned. Ever. So if Avaloran is on the other side of Azeroth, purely because, let's be honest, the Azerothian map is getting a little tight at the minute. I don't think I'm the only one that believes that. Is there space for another fucking island somewhere on that map? I don't want to think about that anymore. Also, if that place was on Azeroth, why would the heretics have waited this long to actually show themselves? So it's far more likely that Avaloran is on the other side of Azeroth, and that the Titans truly did, as I speculated, place a barrier around us and where we live and Avaloran. So when they couldn't defeat the heretics, when they realized that the heretics are just too powerful, they erected this barrier to keep the Avalorian troops, or the Avalorian heretics, away from their creation, their special place that they have made for themselves. This means that there's an entire side of Azeroth that the Titans and Ny'alotha can be. Not the Titans, the old gods and Ny'alotha can be. That we just don't know about yet because we've never been able to go there. Which may actually be the thing that we do in Dragonflight. One of the things we do might actually be to bring down this barrier. Which might lead us right back to all of the other, like, dragons and the dead things that we're supposed to be so afraid of that Xal'atath mentioned but we've never actually seen. So there is a world in which that is very possible. D-Rock, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, that answers it. But there's a one whisper from Il'gynoth where he says, "Her heart is a crater, and we have filled it." So what I was thinking is, what if they like burrow deep down inside of Azeroth, and she's protecting them after they pulled out? What was the really big old god's name?
Yasharaj.
Yes, Yasharaj.
Yeah.
And like she's basically like covering them in like a barrier or something ever since he got pulled out.
I mean, you're moving closer to what I now believe. Her heart is a crater, and we have filled it. We are her children. We are in her heart. She loves us. We always read it as they force themselves inside. But it's funny that they mentioned her heart. The heart is synonymous with love. The love that a mother has for her children, perhaps? Her heart is a crater, and we have filled it. No, that wasn't me. That was D-Rock. And it...
That wasn't me. I think that was Morny. I'm not pushed to talk.
Oh, yeah, it might actually be Moni. I think his pooch is losing it. But, yeah.
Yeah, I switched to mute really fast when she did. Sorry about that.
No, it's perfectly fine, bro. But, yeah, so it is possible that, you know, her heart is great and we have filled it. It means that Azeroth has taken them in as her own, as her children. That maybe they themselves have also been changed due to being on Azeroth. So they came to corrupt Azeroth, but indeed Azeroth is the one that corrupted them. I mean, that's a whole new level of strength right there, right?
Yeah, that, and also N'Zoth says some stuff that is, like, concerning too, because he says, "Receive now the greatest of all gifts. My dream has become your own. The circle of stars are made flesh."
Yeah.
But I looked up everything regarding stars, and if you look at almost every depiction of the Titans, they're like made out of constellations. So if the circle of stars are now made flesh, does that mean there's a Titan that's also betrayed the Pantheon besides Sargeras?
Jesus, I don't know. It's possible. It's possible that we don't know all the stories of the old gods, right? Turbo, by the way, thanks for the first time chat, dude. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm definitely nowhere near the size of Boogie 298. I don't mean in terms of being fat. I mean in terms of viewership, right? But I appreciate it nonetheless. How you doing, bro? I don't know. Jesus, that's actually a good question. And we wouldn't know, because Sargeras betrayed the Titans, but it could be that many other Titans also betrayed them, because the Keepers do speak of heretics, right? There are other betrayers, and they're the ones who now call Avaloran home. So is it possible that there are more Titan traitors than just Sargeras? Could Sargeras have been the last in a line of traitors, perhaps? I don't think so. I really hope that's not the case, because it makes it very impactful when you have one traitor. Okay? That's very impactful. The second you find out that there's like 8 traitors for the Titans, you kind of start going, well, you know, these guys clearly don't know how to make friends. Sound, by the way, thanks for the follow. Really appreciate that, bro. So yeah, I would be hesitant to go in that direction, but it is possible.
Okay, and I have one more whisper that really stood out to me.
Okay.
He says, "She is not the last, but the first. Drown her and you will see."
Yes.
So does that refer to as Azeroth being the first Titan and the Pantheon like encaged her? Because if you think about it, Azeroth is just a prison. Everything on there is to either destroy her, keep her asleep, or keep her locked up. Reorigination wipes everything. It's like a delete button, and everything else is a prison.
I think you literally just cracked it. She is not the last, but the first. Originally, the belief has been that Azeroth is the last Titan to awaken. They're waiting for her to wake up. The old gods say she is not the last, but the first. In other words, she didn't wake up last. She woke up first. Or maybe it's even bigger than that. She's not the last Titan to awaken. She is literally the first Titan. She is the beginning. She's the origin of all of this. Which, of course, makes Azeroth a first one, which is something I don't necessarily want. But at the same time, it's not entirely something I would be against. I could see ways in which they could make that story work. So I'd probably be okay with it. For the most part, if they could pull it off right. But anyways, the fact that she would be the first is, again, It just proves that the fucking Titans locked her up, right? The Titans kept her locked up so that they could do, I don't know what the hell to her. Like, maybe one of those fiddly fucks that used to work at Blizzard was the guy who wrote, the Titans locking her up, and that was just him living his base fantasy. He was like, oh my god, this would be so cool if I could actually lock a girl up and do these things to her. So he just wrote that for World of Warcraft. No, we know what they wanted to do. They wanted her power over life. Because if we're correct, then she's the only one that can actually create true life. Actually, it's not even if we're correct. Azeroth is literally the creator of the dream. It's her dream. So, yeah, 100%. That's an interesting concept, D-Rock.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time after like 3 a.m., so I just go down these rabbit holes.
That's always the funnest part of speculating. So I really appreciate that, D-Rock. Holy shit. That was some interesting stuff. Is there anything else?
I have one more question. So, okay. I was doing the new, not the pre-patch, but the last patch of Shadowlands. I forgot what it was. 9.2, I think.
Yeah.
And you have to recreate the Arbiter, right? And in order to create an Arbiter, from what the game showed us, was that you need to create a vessel that's like 3D printed in a Azeroth realm, and imbue a soul into it.
Yeah.
But what souls are in the current Titans and the current Eternal Ones, if they are related? Because if you need to imbue a soul into it, because when we kill the jailer, his soul vanishes, and you just see like his 3D robot body, right?
Yeah.
So what souls are in the current Titans, Eternal Ones, even Elune, and what pantheon does Elune belong to?
Alright, so in terms of what souls, that's not really something I know how to answer. Because it could be multiple things. So it could be the souls of the first ones. In other words, the first ones, in order to oversee the universe, sacrifice themselves in the sepulchre, and then allow for their souls to become Eternal Ones and Titans and all the rest of it. The other option is that it is portions of the first one's souls. So the first one sacrificed portions of themselves, and this ultimately became the souls of the constructs that we would know as the Eternal Ones or the Titans. Or it could be something entirely different. It might be that they don't really have souls. That what we see is they call it a soul because, ease of use, but it doesn't function the same as souls as we would know it. I don't know what that answer would be. What's...
Because Pelagos becomes the new Arbiter.
Yeah.
But his soul is from Azeroth itself. Because he was born on Azeroth, he died on Azeroth, and he went through the Shadowlands.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking is, what if all the Titan souls and all the other souls were being born on Azeroth, but their souls were just transferred into the vessels to watch over these things?
That is not entirely impossible. Okay, so in Legion, I had this massive speculation theory. And I'm not going to go through all of it now because that video itself was probably over half an hour long. I'm not going to recap it all, but I'll give you guys a quick breakdown of it. In Legion, I speculated that the Emerald Dream is nothing other than Azeroth's dream. And that the Emerald Dream is where all life is created in the entirety of the Great Beyond. So it's not just that, it's connected to Azeroth. It's connected to reality as you see it in the map, the Chronicles map. It's connected to reality. It spans the breadth and length of the entirety of the Great Beyond, and it creates all life within it. So it is entire. Remember the early stories? Azeroth consumed all of the spirit. Giant Rat Guy, thanks for reminding me of that. Azeroth consumed all of the spirit on Azeroth? What if Azeroth consumed all of that spirit because she needed it for the dream? In order to create the dream, in order to dream reality, in order to dream life, Azeroth needed all of that spirit. And this is all Azeroth is doing. She is constantly dreaming life. The first ones, however, arrived here, decided to sort of subvert this entire system, create their own Zeroth realms where they create constructs, and use the souls that is created within the dream to create their own constructs. Constructs that would basically keep Azeroth sleeping, keep Azeroth imprisoned, while they get fed on the Azerite, or not the Azerite, the anima that Azeroth creates. So there is that possibility as well. It's an outlier possibility, but it is a possibility nonetheless.
So if that is true, that means basically every villain we have ever destroyed or killed their soul was created by Azeroth.
Yeah.
So then Galakrond's soul could still be alive.
I mean, all souls could still be alive for all we know. Right? There's literally no evidence that anything ever dies. Now, there is a chance that when a soul is so damaged that it just doesn't seem like it's worth trying to recreate a body for that soul, that soul goes into some sort of prison, or perhaps that soul gets grounded down, mixed with other souls, and recreated that way. So it kind of dilutes the evil into a bunch of new souls that then gets born. So instead of having one Galakrond, maybe you end up with 20 dragons, or whatever the case may be, right? So there is an outside possibility of something like that happening.
That's interesting. But I have another question. What pantheon does Elune belong to?
Your guess is as good as mine. The fact that she calls the Winter Queen sister would suggest the Pantheon of Death. Because at least we know that she's been in the Shadowlands before. She was there in the beginning, and then she left. So it's entirely possible that she used to be part of the Pantheon of Death, and then she left in order to take care of Azeroth, in order to ensure that Azeroth would remain imprisoned, or perhaps that Azeroth would remain asleep, or perhaps to maintain balance within this new order of things. Your guess would be as good as mine here. I have no idea.
Yeah, because each of these 3D printed gods, they all belong to some Zereth or pantheon of whatever they are, right?
Yeah.
Like Order for the Titans, Death for the Shadowlands. But Elune, I feel like Elune doesn't fit in any of those.
No.
She's like weird. And also, if you read the stories of the two moons, she said the little moon was birthed out of her love.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, what if they just 3D printed her a kid? So she's not lonely in the sky.
Or she figured out how to create it within the dream. Because remember, she is the one tinkering with the dream probably more than anyone else.
Oh, that is true, yeah. So she's taking Azeroth's power too.
Yeah, she's probably figuring out how to... I mean, the old gods do refer to her as the upstart goddess. You know, so not yet fully a goddess, but kind of getting there. So there's multiple possibilities here. I genuinely have no idea what the right answer is to this. I have no idea.
All right, fair enough. That's all the questions I had. Thanks, Echo.
Thank you very much for the questions, D-Rock. Really appreciate it, bro. Take care of yourself, man.
Have a good day, everybody.
You too, man. All right. We have 2 more people that need to ask questions. So after that, we'll go. Okay. Moni, who is next? I see Moni is still muted, so I'm not entirely sure. Who is next? Okay,
Sorry,
there we go.
Sharky is next.
Okay.
I forgot to unmute myself.
No worries. Sharky, okay. Sharky, how you doing, bro? What's your question?
Hi. I don't have a league question this week. Don't worry.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I actually hit my question's super simple. Have you ever played any tabletop RPGs like D&D? And if so, what's your favorite?
All right. This is gonna be a quick one. I played a little bit of D&D, and that's it.
That's it?
Yeah. I didn't grow up with, like, tabletop. I grew up in so South Africa is basically my culture in South Africa, which is a small culture, but, my culture is incredibly conservative Christian, like, heavy Christian conservative. And my parents pretty much believed this, like, I think I was, let me think. Okay, so I was about standard 3, standard 4, which would make me 11, when my dad threw out Diablo and Baldur's Gate and all those games, because he was like, these are satanic, and he just, found God again, I think. So he became completely anti those games. He would not have been okay if I told him, oh, by the way, I'm going to play Dungeons and Dragons. He would have lost it. And I remember, like, the newspapers at the time would constantly have these articles. Like, my mom freaked out once because I had some friends that was playing Magic the Gathering, and the newspapers had just launched this entire story about how a young teen was playing Magic the Gathering and then, forsook his parents and wanted to kill someone, and it's a gateway to Satan and all that shit. So there was a lot of fear mongering and shit, right, that happened while I was growing up. So I never had the opportunity to really play those games. It wasn't until, like, I've always been a PC gamer, and for the most part, my parents left that alone. They didn't waste too much time on looking at the games we were playing. But yeah, so by the time I was old enough, I didn't care. I was playing RPGs on my PC. I couldn't give two fucks about playing a tabletop game. I do have to say, though, we streamed D&D actually for a while, and it was great fun. The D&D, I would say, is probably one of the best tabletops. Just because I love the exploration, the freedom that it gives you and how the story is told. I'm absolutely, I adore that shit. So yeah, that would be sort of the answer, I guess.
Well, thank you very much. Morny, I know you do D&D stuff, so you have to include him now.
Yes,
as another DM, I'm gonna guilt trip you into this.
Yeah, Moni, by the way, for those of you that is interested, Moni is running like live streams, I don't know, every day, every week, on building his own D&D campaign. I think the D&D campaign is for Discord, right?
Yeah, it's for Discord. I'm just trying to get back. Just had some personal things that came in that caused me to stop streaming, but I'm going to be fixing to start back up again probably later this week.
Well, there you go. If you're interested in D&D, reach out to Morny or any of the mods. Tell them, hey, I want to play with you guys. And then you can watch Morny build out the campaign during the week. I don't know how long that's going to take, but yeah. There's a lot of things that happens over on the Discord for those of you that is interested. There's games that's being played. There's always someone doing something. There's a lot of lore discussions going on there. So it's more fun than just asking your questions in Discord, to be honest. So yeah, I would absolutely say join the Discord if you haven't already. It's a pretty fun community. I read everything in Discord, but I'm not super active in Discord. Because usually you guys start fucking typing stuff when I'm busy. You never wait until I have time. So then I just sort of read what you guys are doing while I'm working. But yeah, okay. So Sharky, thank you so much for the question, dude. Really appreciate that. And I'll see.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we'll get some time at some point to start working in some D&D streams again. Like maybe on a Friday afternoon or some shit like that. We can do a bit of D&D streaming.
I'm not in your time zone, but I also happen to run D&D. So if you ever want to do Call of Cthulhu, I got some modern stuff. I love running.
All right, we can figure something like that.
I don't want to pitch myself, but Call of Cthulhu is much better than D&D, in my honest opinion.
Bro,
Sorry, Morty.
Pitch yourself, bro. It's all good, man. It's all good. Okay, well, I'll see what I can do, and then maybe we can do. I did play the game Call of Cthulhu, which was super fun. Really cool story. But yeah.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful night.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, bro. Take care of yourself, bro.
Yep.
All right. Morny, is Armchair Rockstar the final questionnaire for the evening?
Yes, he is. I'm pulling him up now.
There we go. Well, I say evening. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here. But we've been live for about, like, what is it now? Probably almost 7 hours. Armchair, how you doing, brother? You're muted, by the way.
Hey, thank you, Akalon. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, brother. How you doing?
Well, I'm very glad to be talking to you, sir.
I'm really happy to have you here, brother.
Now, I should introduce myself. I'm a fairly new person who is watching your streams and learning
nice.
learning the depth of the story of World of Warcraft.
Oh, thank you very much, bro. Very happy to have you. Yeah?
Yeah. So I used to play World of Warcraft in early expansions, but then it got so different. It became a different game. So I did other things like researching real-world religions and philosophies.
Okay.
And I'm here to tell you what similarities I found between the story of Warcraft and our story in this world, in this life.
Okay.
Now, the most interesting philosophy or religion that I have found looking at our history is this ancient religion or philosophy called Gnosticism.
Okay.
Now, Gnosticism means to have knowledge.
Yeah.
There is no dogma in Gnosticism, but there is a long story about how Aeon Sophia, the goddess, the creator goddess, has fallen into its own creation.
Okay.
Well, and I'm here to give you and your viewers a suggestion.
Okay.
Now, there's a man called John Lamb Lash, and he made a video called The Fallen Goddess Scenario.
Okay.
If you search for this on YouTube, The Fallen Goddess Scenario by John Lamb Lash. This is 3 hours and 21 minutes long video.
Okay.
And this is an ancient philosophy of our world. This is a creation story of our world, our reality.
Uh-huh.
And if you listen to this, you will be amazed about how much this correlates with the story of Warcraft. I mean, more than 2,000-year-old religion or philosophy is just correlating with the story of Warcraft in an unimaginable way. So it actually is scary, you know? It's so because this could all be true. I mean, we take these games and these philosophies. We want to take them lightly, right? We always at the back of our mind, we always tell ourselves, no, none of this is real. This is so complicated, right? This must be just for entertainment. But what if it's real? At least some part of it is real.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I'm agnostic, right? So I'm not in the camp of saying there is no God or there is no religion. I'm more in the camp of I don't know. And so I sort of keep an open mind because there might be. I mean, you know, the last thing you want is not be open-minded. But I'll definitely check it out. I'm always very interested in new religions and sort of ancient texts and things like that. I do know, I'm not entirely sure if I've ever read of the influence of Gnosticism on the Blizzard writers, but I do know that the writers took painstaking amounts of information from religions and beliefs around the world. You know, if you go into a lot of portions of World of Warcraft, you'll find very Greek-oriented mythologies. You'll find Roman mythology. You'll find Egyptian mythology. You'll even find African mythology. There's like a few, especially with the trolls in the Loa, There's like a lot of African mythology in there. You'll find Viking mythology, Norse mythology, so to speak. Of course, you find ancient Asian mythologies in there as well. And it's entirely possible that Blizzard probably looked at something like Gnosticism as well, just to sort of, round it out, if that makes sense. So I'd be more than happy to look into these things. If even if there's nothing for me in World of Warcraft, I still like learning about like religions and ancient texts and ancient truths of the world. The thing that I met a guy. This is the first time in my life that I met someone that's a practicing Hindu. So I met this guy, and I'm like, so do you guys have a story of the end of the world? And he's like, yeah, we do. And he kind of tells me a little bit about it. I'm like, okay, but does he have any? Is there any specific references to the end of the world, like specific things that we can look at that will happen, and that will be the signal that the end of the world is coming? Like, for example, Revelations has like specific events that will happen, and those specific events will lead to the end of the world. And the guy literally just told me, no, nothing like that. Dude, I was so fucking gutted. I was so ready to have like a 5-6 hour discussion with this guy, talking about, the end times of Hinduism. And he's just like, no, nothing so specific. Like, motherfucker. I'm sure there is. Well, he just probably didn't know it.
Okolon, yeah. And what's more important than the end times is how it all began. Now, when we look at Gnosticism, and when they explain how it all began, how Aeon Sophia was an eternal being. Actually, she was one of the first ones. Mm-hmm. You had a guest before me, or one before that. Yeah. You talked about this, right? Mm-hmm. Azeroth is the embodied version of Aeon Sophia after the fall into its own creation. So it's like Aeon Sophia is dreaming in its own creation. Our lives are actually her dream. We are in her dream. That's why we are connected to the Azeroth, right?
Yeah.
We cannot die because we are being dreamed by Azeroth. So we cannot die. And I believe we don't also go to Shadowlands, right? Am I right about that?
We don't. Right. When we die, we don't go to the Shadowlands. We somehow, our connection to Azeroth is so strong that she keeps us on Azeroth. They don't pick us up. They don't take us to Shadowlands. And in the Shadowlands, we also don't die. Again, because of our connection to Azeroth.
I also have something to say about Karazhan. Now, there is a structure called the Akashic Records, and some people are tapping into this record. Now, in these records, it's like a crystal palace, right? I'm talking about a real phenomenon. I mean, call it real or not, but people are saying that they're... Sorry, can you give me a second?
Yeah, of course, bro. Oh, Alderden. Battlestar Galactica is such a good show. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again, but I fucking loved watching it the first time. But if you like space stuff, do yourself a favor and watch The Expanse, bro. If you haven't watched The Expanse yet, you absolutely have to. It is phenomenal.
I will check it out. Now I'm trying to control my intellectual growth, right? Okay. So I'm trying to control the number of stories I take in, because most of them are getting like scarily close to each other. It's like real or imaginary, like real or fantasy is getting to a point where they are now converging in my life. And this is so weird.
I can see
that. And I myself have some theory about the mind and about the Titans. Mm-hmm. And let me talk to you about this.
Okay.
Now, you got excited like not too long ago. You got excited about Titans being deceptive, right? You
Yeah.
always wanted people to see that.
Yes.
And that's why you're great, Akalon. You don't take the facts as they are. You always
Thank you.
you always expect them to change
Oh
and
yeah,
morph.
I trust nothing. Everything that Blizzard writes, like Blizzard, Steve the Newser himself could tattoo the story on his ass cheeks, and I'd be like, "Fuck that, that's not true." We'll see. It's a lie. So yeah, I'm like 100%. I don't trust jack shit in the
know what?
universe.
You know what? When you get angry with Steve the Newser and you start calling him things, I start laughing so hard. It's the funniest thing for me.
I'm glad you enjoy that, bro. What's your theory? I still have a bit of doubt. Yeah, you have to, Candy. You can't just believe everything people tell you.
So, all right, I opened the beer to let me take a sip from my beer.
All right, no worries, bro.
Now, Akalon, let's talk about the human mind. What is a human mind, and what do Titans have to do with it?
You're talking about the mortal minds of World of Warcraft mortals.
Yes, I'm talking about your mind. Now we are gonna talk about my mind and your mind.
Well, the mind is just a CPU, right? It's literally just a giant vector space where millions of pieces of data is fired upon every single day, cataloged and then recalled over and over again. It's a problem-solving center, effectively.
But there's also that's like the left brain. I mean, just for the sake of the conversation, let's call that part of that function can be called the left brain. But we also have this right brain function, which is more creative, boundless. We can imagine really strange things. We can explore the unimaginable, right?
Yeah, I need to say this because there's a lot of people that won't. There's no such thing as a left and a right brain, but for the sake of the conversation, that's fine. We can call it left and right brain. But yeah, even your creative side is, in my opinion, just a case or just a center of problem solving. It just solves different problems. But I argue that it all boils down to problem solving at the end of the day. Your creative side just solves. So, for example, problem solving is all about creative thinking, right? You have to be creative in order to solve problems. So a lot of people will say, oh yeah, I'm not good at math, right? Because I'm more of an artist. And it's sort of like, well, mathematicians are artists in their own right. They're using very similar portions of the brain in order to solve very complex problems because they have to think about those problems incredibly creatively in order to solve certain problems. So it really, it's a lot more entangled, but I get where you're coming from, or at least I get what you're trying to say.
Now, the human mind has a capacity to self-reflect, while a synthetic mind, a synthetic intelligence, does not have the capability to self-reflect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this is also related to the power of empathy. Like, I can feel your feelings without even knowing that I'm feeling them, consciously knowing it. I can feel, if I'm a good empath, I can just take in your energy and feel the empathy. Now, this is like a machine will not be able to do these things. These subtle forces in a human being, it's what makes us real, right?
Yeah.
These things, yeah. And let's talk about the left, just for the sake of conversation, let's call it the left brain function, the more of with the numbers and logical thinking. What is that mind but a construction factory, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't create anything, but it separates and labels and creates an image of things.
Yeah.
For example, the word sea is not the sea. It's a label with an image attached to it, It
Yeah.
stays in your mind. Right?
Yeah.
So this mind separates reality into units, expecting it to be manageable.
Yeah.
But for all we know, the sea and the sky could be the same thing in essence, and they may be inseparable in reality. But our mind separates them into two, saying this is the sky and this is the sea. But this could be all false.
Yeah. Okay, I see where you're going with this, but you are trading into incredibly convoluted ground. But I can see where you're coming from, okay?
Yeah, and Oscar Wilde, the great writer Oscar Wilde said, to define is to limit.
Yeah.
So all words are limited understandings.
Yeah.
All concepts are you said one thing. Titans, they only construct things. They are not giving life. They order and construct things.
Yeah.
So they are like words or creator of languages or words, the system of language.
Yeah.
One interesting thing in the Warcraft story is also the thing they call the language of domination. I want you to talk to us about what you know about that, please.
You mean the language of creation for WoW?
No, there is a term that I heard from somewhere, language of domination or some such thing.
Yeah. The language of domination was created by the Primus, which, I mean, we don't know much about it. We just know that if used in the right way, you can basically dominate or manipulate anyone to do your bidding. It's a series of runes, and it was created by the Primus. Now, there's a good chance that it may have been created by the Primus using the language of the first ones. But it's interesting that you bring up languages, because if you read the Broker's Expedition Journal, the language of the first one seems to be ever-changing, ever-adapting, never the same. The more he learns about it, the more he realizes that there is even more to uncover about the language. So it seems like the language of the first ones is far more complex than any language that he's ever encountered of any mortal race in the Great Beyond or in the Shadowlands. So it is interesting to note that the language of creation is infinitely complex in World of Warcraft.
Because I think the language of creation is like a song which continues.
Yeah, you're borrowing quite a lot there from Tolkien, though, because Tolkien believed that the origins of the universe was sung. It was song.
But I think more in terms of it's an art form which has freedom in it. Its language is actually freedom. That's why it has to flow freely without arbitrary constructions built upon it, like the language of domination.
Yeah.
But these constructs, if they exist, imagine that now we are living under or in a world where the language of domination is active. And let's imagine that our minds have been programmed by this language we are using right now.
Yeah.
That would make all of us confused about our origins and our creation stories and our future and our even now.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be the case for me, for the majority of human beings upon this earth. Like, most people don't know where they came from, why they are here, or where they are going.
I mean, yeah, but that's again just down to human nature, right? Because you're constantly blurring the lines between World of Warcraft and real life, so it makes it very difficult for me to follow the conversation, because I don't think World of Warcraft is that closely related to real life. Because in real life, the reason most people don't know why they're here or what they're doing is because we've lost all religion. Religion used to be the thing that gave us a goal. It gave us a purpose for living. Whether that purpose is arbitrary or made up or not real, doesn't really matter. It at least gave us a purpose. Now, most people in the world, or not most people, because most people are still religious, but there's a growing number of people that no longer have religion. And what ends up happening when you don't have religion, since you evolved as a monkey that needs religion, you start grasping at straws. You start coming up with anything that can basically give you some semblance of direction within this world. Because this world is a scary place, and without direction, it is very difficult to find your way in any way, shape, or form. So it kind of makes sense in the real world, but I don't know if that necessarily translates to World of Warcraft. Because World of Warcraft is not real world. So in World of Warcraft, oftentimes our direction is given to us by the writers. It's not really, like, we're not necessary for it, you know, if that makes sense.
Okay, are you sure it's not real world? Because I have found similarities, at least good amount of similarities between reality, our reality, and the story of World of Warcraft.
Yeah, but I mean,
sure.
Yeah, but you're gonna, of course, you're gonna find realities or similarities between our reality and World of Warcraft, because the writers of World of Warcraft live in our reality. So they're obviously going to be influenced by it. But if anything, World of Warcraft is a crude and wholly unfinished copy of parts of our reality. It's not even the whole part of our reality.
But like you said, the historians of the World of Warcraft story, they are actually coming up with all kinds of historical narratives. They know incredible amounts of Egyptian mythology, like all kinds of mythologies is in there. And I want to tell you my theory about it. Okay. Those people, I believe they are tapping into real Akashic records. In our universe, there is a place called Akashic Records, and everything is recorded in there, in a right way. And not every people has an access to Akashic Records. Some people, some souls, can access it, have permission. There are different degrees, as I learned, and if you tap into these Akashic Records, and you can take information, stories from there, which are, by the way, real. I mean, as real as your chair, the chair you're sitting on, the chair I'm sitting on. Those stories are real.
Yeah.
And I believe their historians are tapping into that, and they're coming to us and talking to. They're actually making us play a game that is the story more real than our daily dull working life. Like it's like we feel like we're playing a game, right? Yeah. But what we're doing is actually more real than going to shop and buying some avocado and making breakfast and going to work. It's actually more relevant and real.
See, I the problem with your theory, and I don't mind the fact that you believe it, but I do take issue with it. The problem with your theory is it's only true if I say that I believe that this records place, the Akashi records, if I believe that place exists, if I believe in Gnosticism, if I accept that Gnosticism is indeed the best way to describe everything that's happening in our world and how our world came to be, then yes, we can draw conclusions. Now, I have a different theory for you of how I believe our universe works, and it actually spins from the Christian faith, not from Gnosticism or anything like that. But I believe that we exist within the Matrix. I believe that we exist within a vector space, not in the same way that the movie takes place, but you have to think of the human mind as effectively a module that taps into this vector space. Everything that we ever create and everything that we ever sort of discover is not things that we discover. It's just things that we manifest from within this vector space. It is things that has always existed. So when the Bible speaks about demons, for example, the demons that it's referring to are vectors or items within this vector space that we effectively download that isn't good for us. So effectively, we call files on a computer that is bad for you daemons, right? DAEMONs. So these demon files that we download do bad things for us. So for example, we download a car. A car's primary function is to take us from point A to point B. But a car also has a number of shall we say, undesirable traits. For example, it pollutes quite a lot. So what happens if a car is in fact actually a demon file? It's not a file that we should have had access to, but because we ate from the tree of good and evil, or at least the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we now have the ability to download all files, both good and evil. So we download these files, this file of a car, and we make a car. And this car brings us from point A to point B, but it was never actually supposed to exist. And so what ends up happening is, while this thing is taking us from point A to point B, it is also taking us down the road of ruin, towards the inevitable end. That's another theory that I have. I'm not saying I believe that theory. I'm just saying that's a theory that I've heard, and it goes into a hell of a lot more detail, but I'm not the right person to recap it because I don't understand half of it. But it's a theory that combines vector spaces and looks at the Bible as a collection of stories that is actually trying to explain the vector spaces to people that would have had no ability to understand vector spaces if they were explained to them in their scientific origins. So they came up with stories to try and make people understand what the vector space actually is, what it actually functions as. So that's the only problem that I would have with your theory, is that I could tell you now that, World of Warcraft is actually far more based on Christianity because, it's like a vector space and the Titans are downloading things from the vector space and ordering them. But that would only be true if you agreed with me, right? If you agreed that the vector spaces are real, then we could probably start an argument there, or we could probably start a discussion there. But if you don't agree with me that the vector space is real, or until such time that I have proven to you that the vector spaces are real, you're not going to, necessarily, I'm not going to be able to move you on that conversation because I'm not able to prove it. So when you tell me that there's this archive or this place of records, I'm listening to it and going, oh, that's very interesting, but I'm not entirely sure I agree with it.
Okay, it's Karazhan, actually. Akashic Records is Karazhan, but more importantly, there is no threads of reality. Like you're mentioning, like a different timelines, threads of reality. There is no threads of reality for the first ones or eternal ones. Mm-hmm. We are in the Matrix because we are moving between timelines, both individually and collectively. But there is also fundamental truths outside of any of these timelines. The fallen goddess scenario, Sophia is still here as an embodied being. Mm-hmm. It's a goddess. We are living inside the goddess's dream, but this dream is different than your dreams. This dream is as real as it gets. I mean, this dream can only be called the real dream.
Yeah.
Now the goddess is actually waking up. The universe or the world is waking up. We are in the process of waking up, and it's not just humans, it's also plants, animals, crystals. Everything is getting energized, transmuted evolving into a next stage, along with Gaia. Sophia, Gaia is the earth, fifth dimensional earth. So as Gaia evolves, our mother earth evolves. We are also evolving and waking up with.
I mean, again, I'll point to you. It's possible that the writers of World of Warcraft read about Gnosticism and borrowed a lot from it. But I don't know if I buy the whole, they somehow latched onto some truth. I'll tell you why. It's Steve the Newser that writes most of these things. And I'm not going to sit here and for a fucking second be convinced that Steve the Newser has grasped some kind of truth that yet eludes me. There is no fucking chance. The dude thought that season 8 of Game of Thrones was a good fucking season. There's no way. That guy has truth that I do not have. So, no, that's probably the only reason I would reject your theory on the face of it, is because I don't think that he's good enough to fucking have come up with the truth of anything. At least in my opinion.
But Akolon, I
Yeah.
think Steve Denuser is just a face they put out as a public relations guy. The real writers of the story, we don't see them. You called them historians, right? The first team. You told us there are two teams. There's a first team. We don't see them. They don't give out. They don't come to the camera, open their webcams and talk to people. Nobody sees them. Maybe we don't even know their names. These people are the ones who are tapping into Akashic records, bringing out sometimes false information.
Yeah, but you're going very deep now. Like, this is like deep conspiracy now. Because, I mean, we know who the first team for WoW is. We also know who the historians for Blizzard is. It's Sean Copeland. He's one of the historians. I don't know what the other guy's name is. But there is actually pictures of him if you want to Google it. I mean, at this point, what happens is you're going very deep into like the speculation bit of this, where you're describing how World of Warcraft could actually be this gateway to an even deeper truth. And I don't think it's impossible to discover deeper truths through video games. I think there are a number of video games, World of Warcraft included, that might actually contain very deep sort of truths, right? That would help. But I don't think they're written to do that. I think there's always kernels of truth, and we don't know exactly what would unlock certain truths within your mind. It could be from reading a specific sentence or listening to a specific song at the right time that could unlock just a fountain of truth that you previously couldn't access for whatever reason. So I find it difficult. I would not be able to buy your theory just because on the face of it, it suggests that World of Warcraft is the sort of underground movement that no one actually knows about, but there is this movement to basically bring truth to the people and bring a level of truth that most people won't ever be able to access, which I just don't think, because what about the other games that's very similar to World of Warcraft, that have very similar stories to World of Warcraft, like ESO, for example? There's a lot of similarities between ESO and World of Warcraft.
What is that game? What is ESO?
Elder Scrolls Online.
I never played it, so I don't know about that.
I would tell you, like, you should go play it. It's also got an incredible fucking story. Just an incredible lore story.
All right, of course, the truth may have been spilled over into many creations, but I think we are looking at and we are looking at Warcraft. We are looking at a story which is highly accurate. I mean, there must be other stories which are also making sense and containing some chunks of truth, bigger or smaller chunks of truth. But World of Warcraft, both for a person's internal life and external life and research, it's meaningful. Like, even when I'm doing old quests from the classic times or the Burning Crusade times, I'm reading the quests now as a young. I was a young man when I first played it, so I just leveled up. I didn't understand what the heck was going on. Now I'm understanding the story, and it's touching something inside, and it's also converging with what I'm learning about our reality and our universe. So it's just I mean, you can call it just a cute, cute thing that normally happens, and it may have nothing to do with our search for true knowledge and God and the divine. But I take them both. When I play this game now, I'm looking at it as, when I watch your videos about the lore, believe me, I'm really taking it seriously, brother. Like, I believe there's a greater truth we are getting here.
But like I told you, I think truth can be unlocked in in many ways. I don't think truth is, because the thing is, you can sometimes have truth unlocked to you in some of the most untrue elements, right? So, like I said, you could be listening to a fucking Taylor Swift song, and at the right time, you're also looking at a light, and suddenly you snap a truth that has nothing to do with the light or with Taylor Swift, but because you looked at the light at the exact right time whilst listening to Taylor Swift, it unlocked a portion of your mind that you previously didn't have access to. Or maybe it just unlocked, not a portion of your mind, it more unlocked information that previously was probably hidden away too deep or wasn't readily available. But I don't think that in that you should start looking at World of Warcraft as like some kind of prophetic book, right? Where you're gonna find the truth of life. Because I'm almost guaranteed if Bobby Kotick found out about that, we would have the religion of Blizzard tomorrow, because that shit can make a crazy amount of money. Bobby Kotick, like, look, the people that work at Blizzard, I can almost guarantee you there's no one smart enough that works at Blizzard to do that. I don't think so. I think I think it's Arkham's Razor. I think that's what the concept is called, Arkham's Razor, which is usually the simplest explanation is the right one. And so what would you say is more possible here? That one, okay, the writers of Blizzard have tapped into some ancient knowledge or fountain of knowledge, and they are providing us with just a fountain of information on how to live your life, on the truth of the universe and the origins of all things. Or that the writers of Blizzard read about Gnosticism, found some of the concepts rather appealing, and wrote some of it into the game.
That's a great question. I think you will have to answer the same question for yourself after you watch the long video, more than 3 hours, about the Fallen Goddess scenario by John Lamblash. After you watch that,
okay,
you will need to ask yourself, what is true then? Because I think, yes, Gnosticism is here and we can learn about it, and it gives great insight. It will give you great insight because you already know the story of World of Warcraft. When you learn about Gnosticism, you will be like, holy shit, this is like, is this from our own history? Somebody, like, more than 2,000 years ago wrote about this. This is older than Christianity, by the way. Gnosticism is real. Christianity is, and it's all about having knowledge. It's not about having dogma or believing in anything. You don't need to believe in anything to be a Gnostic. Your question is awesome. I mean, in my own belief or understanding, I think they may or may not. They don't need to know about Gnosticism to write these stories. They are actually they are more advanced than these Gnostics. They are the new Gnostics. Do you understand what I mean? These people who are writing these stories right now for us to play out, for us to enjoy, they are actually the modern Gnostics. They are doing the same thing thousands of years ago other people did. They tapped into these Akashic records thousands of years ago. They wrote some texts about it. We call it Gnosticism. And now other people are doing the same thing, and they are creating a game out of it.
Yeah, but this feels like a very difficult thing to nail down, though, because this means that everyone that comes up with any sort of truth taps into these records and somehow comes up with truths because the records already hold all of the truths, right? Is that correct?
I mean, I think you're asking how can we be discerning in this situation?
No, how can I falsify this? That's my problem. Because, okay, here's the thing, right? So you came to me with a theory, and it's like, okay, great, you have a theory. I told you my theory, but I told you from the beginning I'm not sold on my theory. This is just sort of what makes a lot of sense to me. But I'm happy to be have my mind changed. You clearly don't really want your mind changed. You've already bought this theory. But now this is where my problem comes in, right? Because in order for a theory to be tested scientifically, we have to be able to falsify it. That's the whole point of science. I need to be able to falsify your data. So if you come up with a scientific theory for which there is no experiment by which I can prove that this is false. So for example, if you told me water is wet, and there was literally no way for me to test whether water was wet or not, we would not accept that as a scientific theory of any kind, because I can't test this. But because we can test that water is wet, because I can throw it on me and be like, oh, wait, I'm fucking wet. You know, we can say that water is wet. It is a scientific theory. The issue, sorry, let me just finish, because I'm gonna forget if I don't. The issue with your theory here is that I cannot falsify it for fucking shit, because if no matter what I do, I continuously come back to the, well, you know, you just tapped into the records, or they just tapped into the records. Does that make sense?
Yes, you make sense. You always make sense, my good brother. But
I appreciate that.
Some things are not, you know, we should not think about some things scientifically. For example, the mind, the spirit or soul or anima or life energy, like whatever you call it, or comprehension cannot be shown or proven under a microscope or with a telescope. You cannot show me where comprehension comes from, what it means to have comprehension, or where knowledge stays. Is it in your brain or not? Like, can you show me under a microscope where your knowledge is?
No,
you cannot show me.
No, we can actually, because we can ask you a question and then look at what parts of your brain light up when you answer that question. And then we know, if we ask you enough questions that would tap into the knowledge base of your brain, if the same portion of your brain continuously lights up when we ask you these questions, we know that knowledge must be stored in that area. The same way that if someone gets into an accident and that part of the brain is damaged, we see that their knowledge is affected. In other words, they can't access that knowledge as readily as they would have otherwise. Or in the case of people with Alzheimer's or dementia, we can see the damage that the brain goes through, and we can see exactly when certain types of memories are going to start going away due to the damage of the brain. So no, we can absolutely prove those things. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the idea that not everything can be tracked scientifically, because usually that is sort of the mark of religion, is to say that, oh, sometimes you just have to believe. I don't like the concept of just believing things, because there's...
No.
Yeah?
I don't mean to say that. I mean to say this. If you push a button in your room, then light comes up in your room. However, the energy of that light bulb comes from somewhere else. It's not where the light shines. Just like when you look at the human brain, when you look at it, it's like you make someone think about some things, and some parts of the brain shows some activity. However, you are looking at the end result. You're not looking at the reason why it's happening. It's just like the electricity. Energy comes from somewhere else. It's just the end point, the light bulb, which you're looking, and you think the activity, all of it, origin of activity is your brain. It's not. It's connected to a higher energetical place.
Yeah, but you see, again, we come back to the Occam's razor. So Occam's razor is the theory that more often than not, the simplest explanation for a thing is the truth, right? So if we look at, this is one of the reasons I reject string theory on the whole of it, because for string theory to exist, you need like fucking 11 dimensions of bullshit and all sorts of complicated math in order for string theory to actually be proven true. It's too complicated. It just doesn't fit. Einstein himself believed that for you to truly explain something in a way that proves that you understand it, you need to be able to explain that to a 3-year-old, and then have the 3-year-old explain it to someone else, and then let that other person explain it to you, and it has to make perfect sense. Because Einstein believed that any theory of the universe must at all times be what's the word? It has to be simple. It has to be easy to follow. It has to be elegant. The problem with
But understand.
so we can believe two things. Sorry, let me just say this. There's two options here in front of us. We can one say that the brain holds knowledge. It's the culmination of everything that we have ever learned in our lives, and our brain is an incredibly advanced CPU that uses different experiences. So, one day I was talking to a cop and the cop said this, and then I was talking to a nurse and they said this. And my brain has this unique ability to combine portions of information to come up with very complicated fixes for certain problems or solutions to certain problems that I may find myself in. Or our brain is a conduit to something that's even larger than it. And the brain is only sort of pulling from this conduit all of the knowledge of the universe. Now, of those two explanations, which one is more elegant? And which one is simpler and easier to believe? Does that make sense?
First of all, of course, my good friend. But first of all, simplicity and elegance, these are good concepts to dwell on. However, they change upon the place where you sit. The place where you sit, simple thing that you consider might not show you the real simple truth, which can be seen when you are sitting on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
For example, I want to give you an example. For simplicity for you is different than simplicity for Zoval.
Yeah.
Consequences and patterns, sees patterns outside of time, sees time as a whole. His idea of simplicity and elegance is different than yours. And his idea of simplicity and truth is also, again, different than yours.
No.
So,
wait, what?
So that's why we are keeping an open mind about all things, right? This is what makes our life enjoyable, because we can reach out to higher understanding.
Yeah, I'm not the one part of that I'm not entirely sure about is the whole truth thing. Because you made it sound there as if there are multiple truths. Like, I have a version of truth, he has a version of truth. I'm not entirely sure if I misunderstood you there.
It's about perspective, limited perspective. When you combine simplicity with limited perspective, you will usually get a false understanding.
Okay, but then don't call
For
it
simplicity,
truth, please. Just opinions then, rather. But if you use the word truth, that becomes very difficult to follow, because there's only one truth. There can be multiple opinions on things, but there can only be one truth. But I get what you're saying. I just wanted to clarify that, because the way you made it sound was as if Zuval has his version of truth and I have my version of truth. So I just wanted to clarify that.
It's not like having different versions, but it's having, from this perspective, we are not able to see the patterns, the fractals, and what's flawed for these fractals. Zoal is telling us the fractal is flawed.
Yeah.
Right? So he's seeing something different. You're not, and I'm not able to see it. He's seeing it in a different point of view, and he might be right. You know this.
Let me finish the conversation on this, because I don't think you and I are gonna meet in the middle on this conversation. Let me go watch the video first, and then I might have a different opinion on it. But I'll end it on, like, It sounds to me, and I genuinely don't mean this as an insult at all, so please don't take it as such, but it sounds to me like you've sort of already married this opinion. Like, you've already accepted that this is your truth. This is how you view the world, and there's no real changing that. Because, you know, I've asked you a couple of times now what is more likely, and you don't seem to want to admit that, you know, the more likely option is that, you know, we just have the knowledge in our brains because that is what our brains do. Am I correct in saying that this is pretty much what you believe, 100% you believe, without really, you don't question it? This is your belief. This is how you view the world.
Okay.
Am I correct in saying that?
In all honesty, I think it's more likely that our brains are just like simple light bulbs. We think they are so advanced because our perspective is so limited. We cannot see what lies ahead. I think there are higher constructs, higher intelligences, and it goes to unimaginable levels. I think our brains are more like light bulbs, which shows activity upon working together with higher levels of intelligence. I think it's more likely.
I'm not going to say straight up that I disagree with you, because I do think our minds are limited. Not because it is actually unlimited. I completely reject the idea that it's just a light bulb. That I don't agree with. Like, I mega disagree with that. But I do think that our brains are limited by the amount of knowledge that we are open to, if that makes sense. So, for example, you came into this conversation, and I think you came into this conversation with the hopes of converting myself or maybe members of chat into your way of thinking, because you have already accepted that your way of thinking is the correct way to think about things, which is fine. You know, that makes you human, because all humans believe that their way of thinking is the right way of thinking, and I don't judge that at all. That's just how human beings act. The problem with that, of course, is if you want to know what the limitations of the mind is, it's exactly this. It's the inability to see any other perspective that clashes with your worldview. And that's where the limitations of the human mind comes in. It is very, very difficult. This is why science, for example, has the peer review process. Because we find it as human beings, we are bias-seeking creatures. We seek for things, we only look for things to confirm our own biases. We very rarely look for things that contradict our own biases. This is why anyone that usually claims that they've done the research is full of shit, because we only do research to prove that we are right in the first place. No one does research to prove that they are wrong. This is why we have the peer review process, because we need other people to research whether or not we are indeed wrong, or right for that matter. And I think this is a good example of, and on my side as well, so I just want to be clear, it's not that I'm calling you out. My limitation is the fact that I fundamentally reject your view on World of Warcraft being a higher level truth. I mega disagree with that. So I'm limited in the way that I'm allowing myself to think about such a prospect, because I just don't see it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Okay, do you remember there was a writing in Shadowlands? I watched your video. You talked us about that. There was a guy called a heretic, but he called himself a devout. You remember his name, right? Who was that?
No, I can't remember the name, but it sounds familiar. Yeah.
Starts with Al, right? Al.
Oh yeah. I remember who you're talking about. Yes, the broker, the became a heretic. Okay, yes. I'm 100% following you.
Okay, in one of the pages, he said, I I opened myself to higher truths. I left behind what I believed, what I knew to be true, what I wanted to be true. I left it behind, and I started opening myself to a higher reality, higher truth. That's how I got enlightened. And he was saying something like that. And I'm here doing the same thing. And the changes does not happen in a moment. Mind is an evolving thing. It's connected to everything else. But I enjoyed our conversation, my good brother.
No, I love conversations like this, and I like the fact that you're actually able to listen to someone disagree and not get angry, because that's usually the one thing of these conversations that does happen. This is one of the reasons I don't really get into conversations with people about real life stuff, because most people can't just walk away from a conversation and go, all right, we don't agree on this. You'll get people that will just fight you and scream and yell at you forever. So no, I thank you for having the conversation, having the guts to have the conversation, because a lot of people wouldn't. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, when I have time, I will definitely watch the video, or I'll just go read about Gnosticism, whichever one I have time for. And yeah, the thing is, I'm always open to learning something that I haven't learned before, or maybe correcting myself if I'm wrong about something. If you know my life story, you will know that I've basically lived a life of self-correcting. Going from all manner of beliefs and all manner of life choices to literally polar opposites at some point in time and back to the center. So I'm not a particularly close-minded person when it comes to almost anything. I judge nothing. I judge nothing. I'm open to everything. So I really appreciate you sharing it, brother.
Likewise. Thank you for the mod who invited me here.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you so much for the conversation. I really appreciate that, brother. Take care of yourself, man.
I just feel like that's how cults start.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I was just saying that for humor's sake. No,
yeah.
that was very. Whew, that was very heavy on thought process, and I've been up since 4 a.m. my time and just did not have the capacity to involve myself in that.
No, that's fine. I enjoyed the conversation because I really do like conversations like this. It's something that I'm always open to. Like, I love conversations like this, but I need people that's open to having arguments and disagreements and not lose their fucking brains. I would love to have more conversations like this with people. Like, I would love it if people were willing to come into the channel and be like, all right, dude, I don't agree with your politics. Let's fucking have a conversation. And actually have a conversation, not a screaming match because you think you see, the problem is that most people come into conversations wanting to already be right. They're not in there to learn something. They're in there to convince someone. And that usually just leads to a massive debate, and oftentimes just an argument where people are screaming at each other and no one learns anything at the end of the day. It's entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, if that's how you come into an argument, I hate to say it, but the person with that mentality has already lost.
True.
They may walk away thinking they won because they either, exacerbated their opponent to just stop talking or give up, but really they gain nothing by just being bullheaded like that.
True. I think it's always better to be open-minded, believe everything until such time that something is proven to be false. That's my sort of theory on the world.
That's the scientific method in a nutshell, ain't it?
Yeah, just believe everything until someone proves that this is that you are wrong. And if you can't prove that it's wrong, then maybe don't believe it so fucking strongly. It's sort of wild to me whenever I see people these days talk about politics, and it's like you have these people who, for some reason, they vote for the one party and they believe that the other party is the absolute antithesis of, or is the absolute epitome of evil, right? It's just that's where Satan lives, is in this other party. And you're like, do you have any evidence to back up that fucking claim? Because that's a pretty deep and pretty serious claim. And you have no evidence other than the fact that you happen to not vote the same way that they do. And that's really the end of your evidence. You have no ability to really back up your claim outside of, well, fuck them. Trust me, bro. It's wild to me. The levels of religion that we've created in our own societies. It's always funny to me whenever I hear people go, yeah, I'm an atheist, and then they start rattling off all of their beliefs, and I'm like, no, you're not an atheist. Not even close. Atheism is to not believe in anything. You believe in a hell of a lot of things. You just happen to not believe in God, but you believe a hell of a lot of things. It's sort of wild to me. I love how chat just instantly takes everything to like a cultist, sort of a hyper realistic fucking place, right? Where chat just instantly turns into the Alex Jones of the internet.
Well, I'm tired of them putting chemicals in the water, turning the freaking frogs gay.
Yeah, fucking frogs are gay, bro. Like, that is just disgusting. No, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys so very much. This has been a very, very long fucking stream.
It's been fun as hell, though.
Oh yeah, this was by far one of my favorite streams, at least in the last 6 months. It's been super fun, so I really appreciate it. I probably won't be streaming tomorrow. Like I told you guys, I have a shit ton of stuff that I have to take care of tomorrow, including 2 podcasts that I have to shoot. So if we have time, maybe I'll be on for a short time, but don't count on it. Just keep an eye on Discord. I'll let you know if that happens. Otherwise, I'll see all of the patrons for the podcast tomorrow, and I'll see all of you back here on, what is it, Friday. Yeah, tomorrow's Thursday, so I'll see you back here on Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I love all of you. Be kind to each other. Be good to each other. I'm going to go get some food because I'm fucking hungry. It's already 5 p.m. So, peace out, fam.